Good morning. Good evening. Hi there. I'm reminded of Shakespeare's St. Crispin's Day speech in one of his plays about we small band of brothers and sisters. Thank you for coming tonight. You are the small band of brothers and sisters that keep democracy going. Could we have a little bit of quiet in the hall and people finding some seats? Okay, my name is John Fallon. I am your elected town moderator. I am calling the third adjourned session of the May 2023 annual town meeting to order. Could we have a little room, please? Thank you. To sum up where we are, we have taken action on Articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 22, and 23. I have moved Article 26, collective bargaining, to the second last item of the agenda. We have 28 articles left on the warrant. If we do not finish them tonight, we'll be back here next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Could I have a motion on Article 7? I think we can still read the motion on Article 7 while you're figuring it out. Yes.
So the motion? So I'll move to vote to raise and appropriate the funds for the hiring of an additional full-time firefighter EMT, or to take any other action relative thereto.
I think what you really want to do is move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,663 for the hiring of an additional full-time firefighter EMT and to meet said appropriation by taxation.
Yep, that page.
Okay, is there a second? Moved and seconded. Okay, discussion. I think there's a presentation by the fire chief.
Or do you want to do recommendations first or presentation?
Recommendation?
Well, either or. I don't care.
Go with the recommendation.
Okay, so the majority of the select board recommends the town hired the fire chief about 3 years ago, who identified some staffing shortages within the department. And the town had significantly understaffed the EMT firefighters and relied heavily on per diem. Additionally, I think it's important to point out that this year we are losing a consistent per diem officer or firefighter EMT. And additionally, the select board would like to inform the residents that we will likely not be awarded the SAFER grant, but we still believe that this is an important position to add.
Okay, we are on page 25 of the warrant for those of you that are following along. Okay, this is the fire chief.
What?
Did
we?
Minority? What? Minority, okay, fine.
A minority of the select board does not recommend this article, the addition of another firefighter EMT to the town payroll, particularly given the unlikely awarding of the SAFER grant should not occur this year. Beyond the salary and compensation costs, another firefighter EMT causes the town to incur additional costs for uniforms and equipment. Before adding such expense to the taxpayers, the minority believes the town should take another look at the operations services that are required from this department based on current population data.
Okay, Chief Philibron. No, he has to give his presentation.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be here discussing about Article 7. I discussed this will be the third year going forward with this article. I seek to continue the plan that we started 2 years ago to add additional firefighter EMTs to a third shift if we're unsuccessful getting the SAFER, awarded SAFER. Currently, the staff model we have was back initially in 1988. I discussed it the last few years ago. We've been adding one EMT firefighter to increase that staffing. So half of our shifts have 3 EMT firefighters 24/7. That's what I'll discuss a little bit later and remind you on how we're going forward. Call comparisons. If you look at the slide we've been using and updating, 1988 population was 33. I got the population about 55. I saw something we just posted. Someone said 6,000 for a job we're posted in town, but our population is around the number what they're stating, but our calls have increased. We did over 573 medical assists or medical calls last year. So that is over the number we were doing for calls back in 1988 when you had 2 people on. So we're not slowing down. COVID was an impact. That's why we had a little downtime. In 20, I say downtime, people weren't calling us. But now people are calling us even more and more. So, but going back to what the SAFER is. The SAFER is a grant that was the federal government created in 2004. It provides funding directly to fire departments for the purpose of increasing the number of EMT firefighters to help meet the safe standards, the minimum standards, and to attain 24-hour coverage for small communities. It is a competitive grant, and some towns in Massachusetts have taken advantage of it. Though this grant is awarded, if this grant is awarded, we're looking to hire 2 EMT firefighters through the grant, and that's totally covered by them for the 3 years. If we are unsuccessful, we are looking for the money we talked about earlier. Currently, this is our staffing model. As you can see, we have 3 firefighters that are represented on the left. Proposed, we want to see on the right. You got 3 firefighters 24/7. It makes a big difference. It's made a big difference in the town with the number of instances we have. When we have a medical, you get 2 people going right now. We just had 2 EMT firefighters come in, they're on shift. If there's 1 call right now for a medical, they're gonna go out on that call. There's no one going back, no one at the station right away. People are coming from home. We have a few people in town. We did mention we have one of our longtime members who's retiring because of age requirement this year. The staffing model, we have a 2-person shift versus the 3-person. This summarizes benefits of 2-person shift versus the 3 and how personnel would deploy at a scene. So at 2-person, it's tied up the duty crew. The average time of the medical call is usually an hour, sometimes longer, matters what facility we have to take the person to. And for fire calls, it doesn't leave a firefighter outside of a structure or outside. We don't have anyone with eyes on it. But a 3-person shift allows the ability to have those 2 people taking care of the patient, and then we have a person actually eyes on, calling for resources, doing the communications. It's very important. If we have a second call, that 3rd person is allowed to go to that call and start the care before someone shows up, another mutual aid town or relating. This is a new slide put in this year. These are 2 incidents we had. We had a fire in town. I was out of state. I was notified by another chief. Crew did amazing. We had 3 people working. They were able to deploy and get an attack line and put the fire out. Right next to it is the same person working on 2-person shift, and we'll say, hey, here's a car fire. We have them all the time on the highway. That's actually not one on the highway. That's one on Mass Ave. And so the same firefighter, if you look at him on the right, he's got the nozzle in his hand. He needs someone to back him up. There's no one watching what's going on. Is there gas leaking out in the vehicle? Is there another thing? Who's operating the pump? That incident, what the picture comes from is actually it came from the police department with their video camera. So just wanted to show you the difference. 3, you got 2 people inside, you have someone on the pump. It's a starting safe. It's the foundry work. It's laying the foundry for a good ground and a good attack and a safe thing. So possible scenarios. If it's awarded, if it is awarded, the grant, this motion is successful, any funds appropriated will be returned to the town. So if we are awarded the SAFER, the money will be returned to the town. If not awarded, this would allow us to add a 3rd firefighter to one of the 2 remaining shifts. This shows you how the SAFER grant is broken down. We'd be starting, if we get them, we'd start them in the fall, in January, halfway through the year. So it's less of a burden, it breaks it into the budget. It covers for 3 years, so 3 years a time. If you see how it would be stretched out, the 4th year would be half that amount, because if we start in January. And the last slide is, just we understand it's a large financial undertaking this year, as every year for a community like Boxborough, but please support the safety of our residents, our neighbors, and our staff.
Finance Committee recommendations.
The Finance Committee recommends 3-2. We had a majority and a minority recommendation. From the majority standpoint, this is the 3rd year of a 4-year program to apply for U.S. funds via the SAFER grant program. This is to hire, again, additional EMT/firefighter, hopefully if we get it, 2 EMT/firefighters. The SAFER grant fully funds, as you just saw, the first few years, and then phases into a 50% and then a 100%. If it's not approved, and again, there's no guarantee it will be approved, the goal is then we would hire one additional firefighter/EMT in January. The chief's goal is to have a full-time staff. We want to get to 8 full-time firefighters/EMTs. And the chief is finding it harder to find per diems. As you just heard from the select board member, our number one per diem for Saturdays just retired. That opens up a hole for us. And it's finding it harder and harder to find per diem firefighters. This will add some funds to the average tax bill. And it's, again, potentially a tough year, but we still believe we need to support our town and our firefighters. From a minority standpoint, the FinCom fully supports applying for the SAFER grant, but believes we should delay hiring an additional EMT firefighter this year if the grant is not approved. Thank you.
Discussion from the floor. Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That carries by majority vote. Motion under Article 8.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $31,000, no cents, for the FY 2023 operating budget for the compensation and benefit costs of a part-time associate planner as follows. The Office of Land Use and Permitting for $30,000, insurance for $500, benefits for $500, and to meet said appropriation by taxation.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board supports this article because it is conforming to the staffing plan that the Select Board has asked the Town Administrator to put forward. Additionally, this staff position would be crucial in applying for several grants and other things to reduce the cost of projects in town. That's it.
Finance Committee recommendations.
The Finance Committee recommends 4-1. From a majority standpoint, we support this warrant article. This year, it's become apparent the town hall is understaffed. The number of boards that rely on the town planner has grown substantially in the last several years. This position would support many of the boards. Additionally, by adding this 19.5-hour a week unbenefited position, the town would only need a part-time building inspector, saving the town a lot of money by not having to hire a full-time.
And the minority report is the minority of the Finance Committee does not support this article. While we appreciate that many additional boards rely on the planner, the interim town administrator is looking at using $150,000 in ARPA funds to reconfigure the west wing of Town Hall to accommodate this position, and is hoping to move both the Council on Aging and Community Services office out of Town Hall. The town will have to look at renting space to house these offices, thereby adding additional cost. This substantially adds to the cost of this position. Additionally, we have a new planner starting on June 1st and a full-time permanent town administrator sometime this summer. Maybe once they are on board, we will be able to figure out how to add this position without all the supplementary cost.
Discussion from the floor.
I guess I'm it. Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. I think this item is premature, and I plan to vote no. With a minority of the Finance Committee. And the reason is we have a very well qualified town planner about to come on board. Does she need an assistant? Does she think that we need to tear up Town Hall and kick the Council on Aging out to somewhere else to meet the land use and planning, the new language for it? We don't know. The new person to come on board has 8 years' experience as a town planner in a very nice town. She's so well qualified. Why rush? Particularly considering the cost, and particularly this year. I think it's premature. When we were hiring a new DPW head, we voted no on hiring an assistant for the DPW head because we didn't know whether the new person on board really needed an assistant or not. Turns out he didn't. Good thing we voted no then on that idea. For the same reasons, or very similar reasons, I encourage and support a no vote on this article. It is premature. It's also expensive. Thank you.
At your December 27th meeting, the select board was presented with a staffing plan, and I think it's fair to say that the associate planner position was the centerpiece of the staffing plan. You said you would, and by you I meant Carter, would be co-locating this person into a space to be known as the Land Use and Permit Office. And you would be using $150,000 in ARPA funds to restructure the first floor of Town Hall. I've been made to understand that that could now include turning the Morris Hilberg room into offices as well. You would free up space by relocating the community service team that you referred to as the COA coordinator, the RecCom department assistant, the community service coordinator, and the 2 support staff members for the COA and the community service to a new site off-site location. You then went on to say that the current community center lease would be up in the fall of 2022, and that you would do an RFP to relocate that space to another space in town, a rental space, in which you could house the social service team that I just referred to above and programming space. You reiterated this at your January 24th meeting. So, and then on your ARPA, on January 18th, you had an ARPA proposal and you prioritized using $150,000 to be able to create this land use office. So I did some quick research today, very quick, I won't lie, and rental space in Boxborough is going for between $15 and $17 a square foot, which means depending on the space you're looking at about $21,000 to $51,000 a year, and I have no idea what kind of space, because this has not been vetted in a public meeting or through the COA. I sit on the COA as well, and this has never been officially discussed at a COA meeting. So I'm not sure what kind of space you need. But I do know for a fact that it is not in the FY23 budget, and it's not been discussed.
Is this about the planner?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
If you'd let me get to my statement. I don't interrupt you, Mark. I think out of respect you shouldn't have.
I think I can interrupt for a point of order.
My question
Thank
is,
you.
if we approve and hire an associate planner, will we then be looking at these added costs for going to an off-site rental for the community service team? Because these two, to me, I've asked this question multiple times, and it's not, that question hasn't been answered. So to me, those two things run together.
Okay.
Can you stop the clock, please? Can you stop
time
the
out.
clock, please?
Time out. This is related because if you read the Finance Committee minority recommendation, it does include this as a reason for voting against. So this is within the scope of the article. No, don't be sorry. Point of order is always good. The sorry was my mic wasn't working.
So to be clear, I did vote in favor of this as a member of the FinCom, except this question has not been answered by the select board or the town administrator every time I've asked. So is there going to be an additional cost? And if so, why was that not part of this article?
Please, sir, what's the issue?
We need the clock on, though, don't we, moderator?
I'm done, Mark, I'm done. I'm
Please,
just listening to the answer now.
that's my job. I am getting
Please do it.
I am getting hand signals. Would you please sit down? I am getting hand signals from the people in front who gave me 30 seconds. And You have another 30 seconds, and then you will sit down. Thank you. We're all set.
So I had a question to the select board or the town administrator. Is this cost will we incur this cost if we hire an associate planner? And why was that not part of this article if we are going to incur it?
Thank you. Who would like to discuss that?
Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator, and with respect, you're conflating the issues. Let me first address costs. The budget contains approximately $67,000 for a part-time building inspector. This is $31,000 for a grand total of $98,000. If you do not use this approach, we need to go back to the approach of trying to hire a full-time building inspector. The cost of a full-time building inspector, if you are able to find one, are going to be in the neighborhood of $112,500, $115,000. You save $15,000 day one out of the box in fiscal year 23 by hiring an associate planner. In years 2 and 3, your contribution to the pension system will go down by approximately $25,000. Now, it doesn't happen all in 1 year because of the way the Massachusetts pension system is set up. That phases in over 2 years. At the end of the 3-year period, you have saved approximately $40,000. Now let's talk about the space issue. It has been suggested many times that the building inspector, planning, and the like should be co-located. For those of you who have been in town hall, especially in the smaller offices on what is affectionately referred to, I believe, as the West Wing, you would agree that the spaces are relatively small, not well illuminated, and ventilation is an issue. There is $140,000 in the ARPA spend plan. Step one of that is to do a ventilation study of all of the public buildings to determine where and at what cost we can improve airflow and ventilation. We are hopeful, and we anticipate, that some of the space to the furthest east end of that will in fact be rearranged, an idea that has been around for many years. By better using space currently devoted to circulation, and by removing barrier walls so that people are co-located in open office space, we will then relocate the Council on Aging within Town Hall. We fully believe that that can be accomplished. And yes, ARPA monies would be doing that. Now let's talk about the fear of the unknown. It is unknown, and it's been conflated, and it's been projected in a manner that is not yet known. Because what the study said was that right now you have some program space you're renting, and I believe that that is around $15,000 a year. I could be completely wrong. You have access to it from roughly 8 in the morning till roughly 4 in the afternoon. The Council on Aging cannot remain set up. It cannot carry out the kinds of programs that it would like to. It can't leave card tables set up, pool tables, craft cabinets, and the like. Now, I know that that current landlord has been having some conversations, I understand, from the COA director, and they can try to improve that. That lease expires on June 30 of 2023. You must, under Massachusetts State Statute, Chapter 30B, issue a request for proposals, invitation for bids, they keep changing the initials on me, for a new space. So what we've said is you have recreation that has administrative support and office needs and currently no place to put them. You have the community services coordinator. They're on one side upstairs. There are administrative supports across the hall in another space. You have the Council on Aging, which is in another completely separate part of the building. So what we said is when you go out to bid, wouldn't it make sense to have Council on Aging, Rec Commission, Community Wellbeing Committee, all talk about what is the best way to staff their needs and to look at how that should be resourced. And wouldn't it make some sense, possibly, that when you go out for that bid for new real estate that you must go out to by statute, you consider including office space so that they're co-located. This team is together in one place for the kinds of synergies that that offers you. And they're with the program space. And the Council on Aging and the Rec Commission and others can have things like the card tables and the pool tables and the arts and crafts sections and the cabinets. So is it a given that all this will happen? I don't know. Those conversations haven't been finished. Do you have to go out to bid? Yes, you do. Does this, even if there is a higher cost to that rental, is there a strong possibility that it might cost more? Possibly. Let's use the number of $50,000. You're currently paying $15,000. You're now going to go up to $50,000. That's a delta of $35,000. How much does it save you by going to the new Office of Land Use and Planning Permitting model? Well, it saves you $40,000. You're still $5,000 ahead. And you have all of your community services team co-located, if the number of $50,000 is correct, in the same place as their program space. You supported us at the special town meeting on added staffing. I ask you to continue to support the staffing model as a means of meeting this.
Thank you.
Okay. Join me in voting no on this article. Thank you.
I've got a question. Is this about a town planner or a building? And I'm Mark Barbadoro, 627 Old Harvard Road. Does anybody have an answer for that? What is this article?
The article is what's on the screen. The article is about hiring an associate planner.
So it's not about a building? I'm sorry, did I get an answer on that one?
I think the answer is pretty clear. The article is about hiring an associate planner.
Okay.
It is legitimate to discuss where that planner would be located.
Okay, thank you. Can we hire someone without remodeling the building and relocating the Council on Aging?
Answer from the Select Board?
I do believe that is possible, yes.
Okay. So it doesn't cost anything in terms of remodeling to hire the associate planner. Excellent. Will it cost us more money or less money to hire the planner and keep the building inspector part-time?
Less money.
Okay, so it's going to cost us less money if we vote for this thing. I just want to be clear on that. If you don't want the building to be remodeled, then do whatever vote you need to do regarding the building. But if you want to have us spend less money and maybe get better services, then I recommend that you hire the associate town planner and appropriate the money. Thanks.
Mark White, Sarah's Way. I'd hoped that this would go quick tonight. So I urge you to support this article, okay? I'm on 2 land use boards. I've watched our town planner floundering with the job. And even though the new town planner may be very good, we don't want to lose the new person. And the turnover here is a problem for us. And so an assistant in this new department, and it is a new department, has the benefits that were spoken of earlier, that we get a part-time building inspector. This hire is a part-time person, so we don't have the additional load of long-term benefits. It's financially, I think it's a good deal. I really hadn't thought a lot about the financial ramifications of having a space renovation, but it's not part of the article. The administration is going to have to figure out how to deal with that space, and if they need more money, then they're going to have to come back to us. So, we have control over that. And so, again, I just urge you, I think that this is a a good hire. I think it's going to help us retain the planner. I think it's going to make the board's jobs a lot easier. And these are volunteer boards, and we work hard, and we need the support. And if we don't get it, it's just a brutal job. And to have that support is, I think, imperative. And I think it's been one of the things that's been lacking in the last, 3 years since I've been on the board. So please support this article.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I strongly support this article, having been on the planning board for a long time. I want people to know that the idea of putting the building inspector and the planner together as a land use office is not a new idea. This was discussed more than 15 years ago at Town Hall. Elizabeth Hughes, when she was our town planner, proposed this, and it didn't go anywhere. It makes an awful lot of sense. And at the beginning of this fiscal year, we had a very difficult time trying to find and hire a full-time building inspector. They are very difficult to find because they can make a lot more money in the private sector. I also want to clarify something else. Everyone's talking about the impact of the $150,000 ARPA money. The ARPA money cost the taxpayers zero. Zero. We were very lucky in terms of getting the ARPA money for lost revenue, which allows the town to determine how to use the money. What we did as a select board, working with Carter, Rajan, and others, is we said that the people that put together proposals, before we knew we could get control of the money the way we wanted to use it, we were going to honor those proposals, and we've done that. This was one of those proposals, okay? So don't be fooled by this $150,000. And also, the job of the planner, the complexity of planning, the amount of regulations, having an associate will benefit us tremendously if you look at some of the changes that are happening in our commercial development, some of the proposals that could be coming down the road. I strongly recommend you support this. And also, this is a red letter day. Mark White and I are on the same page. Thank you.
Rich Gazzardi, 92 Reed Farm Road. I support this article, and I encourage everybody to vote in favor of it. And I think there's a few key points that I want to make specifically about it. Number one, town hall and staffing, and I think there's no secret that there's been a challenge in hiring talent, retaining talent. And one of the things that's really important in retaining talent, when you have good talent, especially a new town planner who we think is going to be really good, is you've got to provide the support to that professional staffer so that they're not bogged down in the daily grind and the minutia of what happens in the transactional work, and that they have the ability to offload. And so that's really important for maintaining their morale and essentially maintaining that staff. The second piece is volume. And so I'm on the Economic Development Committee. I reach out to different towns and talk about different economic development efforts. And I happen to be talking to the Director of Economic Development in Harvard, who's actually the planner. And we were talking about some of the initiatives they're pursuing. And he said, in Boxborough, you guys are very different. Now, when I talk about Harvard, I'm talking Harvard. Devon's is a whole separate matter, separately planned, separately executed. He said, in Harvard, we had not had a subdivision in like 20 years. Boxborough, you guys have subdivision site plan approvals like multiple times a year. Every quarter, every month, there's some transaction coming through. And I'm not going to speak to the numbers. I'll let the planning board folks hear. So that transactional work puts a load on that department, and it puts a load on the town planner. By having an associate planner, there's a lot of transactional work that can be pushed off, which gets to my third point, which is, if I look at it from an economic development perspective and businesses, and I look at the properties that we have that are going to be developed in some respect, we're in big business here in Boxborough. I know we're a small, rural, engaged community, and we appreciate that, and we want that to grow, but we're also in big business. We have multinational corporations that are looking to develop sites, and that's a complex effort, and they come equipped to deal with these issues. And frankly, we also have small businesses that want to get answers. They want to open up a coffee shop. hopefully someday. They want to open up a dog groomer. They go into town hall, they want to know, what do I do? And if the town planner is swamped with trying to deal with all sorts of transactional matters, and there are statutory requirements for them to close on within a certain time, there really is no time. And it's the planning office that these businesses and landowners end up at. And we've been working to try and develop a roadmap for these businesses. And there really has been no time to develop that because the current town planner, who's now gone, has really been swamped. So 3 points, I think they all make sense to me. I hope they do to you. I encourage you to vote for this. Thank you.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. I'm going to take you back to 1989 when the town hired its first town planner. This model, to the chief's slide that you saw earlier this evening, has not changed in support since 1989. However, the workload has tripled, to Mr. Markowitz's point, to Mr. Grizzardi's point. For the past 2.5 years, the select board and the planning board have been in, I would like to say, emotional conversations about the support that the planner must provide to not just the planning board, but to all these various boards. I know that also, to Mr. Markowitz's point, there are architectural plans going back as far as 2004 of the restructuring to create service suites within Town Hall. That's how long the select board and the town administrator have known that there were service issues dealing with these things. In my tenure working at Town Hall, I can call out one specific lawsuit by a homeowner that called the building department. They asked, can I build a driveway? Building department said, yeah, of course you can build a driveway. The driveway was across wetlands. If the building department, the planning department, the zoning, and the conservation were in the same suite, or at the very least, in this case, the proposal is the associate town planner would act as a segue between these various departments, that question would have been answered correctly and saving the town thousands in legal fees. When we're talking about the space issue again during my tenure, the Council on Aging use of the community center was a stopgap measure. We knew that the senior population was increasing, and this was the means to provide those services. The senior population continues to increase. Our town has tripled in size since 1989. Our boards have tripled in size since 1989, and yet we are still using the exact same staffing model. I vote to support this article.
Mr. Moderator, Becky Neville, I move the question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we vote now. That's a 2/3 vote. It's not debatable. All in favor of voting now, please raise your cards. All opposed to vote now, please raise your cards. That clearly carries by a 2/3 motion. Okay, we are now voting on the motion. Everybody in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Everybody who's opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries by a majority vote. Motion under Article 9.
So I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $8,993 and no cents, none of it, for the FY 2023 operating budget for the compensation, insurance, and benefit costs of increased hours and upgrades for existing employees as follows. A, increase standard hours from 19 hours a week to 19 and a half hours a week for the cost of, man, why do we gotta break this up? $2,133. Insurance for $31, benefits for $41. And B, Additional flexible floating hours at the cost of $3,716. Insurance for that is $54, and benefits are $71. Upgrade positions is $2,778. Insurance for that is $73, and the benefits are $96. And to meet said appropriation by taxation with said funds being appropriated to certain budget accounts as set forth in the warrant.
Moved and seconded. Recommendation, Select Board.
The Select Board unanimously recommends, as this is additionally part of the staffing plan that we had asked the town administrator to compile as a means to address some of the stress placed on staff.
Finance Committee recommendations.
The Finance Committee actually has 3 different recommendations because we took each piece separately. So changing 19 hours a week of staff to 19.5, we voted 3-2. Our pro is a majority of the Finance Committee supports this warrant article. This year it's become apparent that Town Hall is understaffed. This would add some much needed help without adding a head count. And the con for that part is a minority of the Finance Committee does not support this warrant article. By increasing the positions to 19.5 hours, we are adding $2,205 to the payroll. It has been a difficult year, and we do not think adding this amount to the budget is necessary. Additionally, Town Hall is now closing on Fridays, allowing employees uninterrupted time to complete the task. So for the floating hours, a majority of the Finance Committee supports to recommend the warrant article. This year it's becoming apparent that Town Hall's understaffed. This would add some additional hours for department assistants and administrative assistants to cover the office when the department head is out due to vacation, illness, or resignation. A minority of the Finance Committee does not support this warrant article. It is not clearly defined how the time will be used, and with Town Hall now being closed on Fridays, we don't believe the additional $3,791 to the budget is wise. It's been a very difficult year. We do not think adding this amount to the budget is necessary. And on the upgrade of staff, we recommended 5-0.
Discussion from the floor.
Well, so far I'm it again, Mr. Moderator. Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. I support this article and a majority of the Finance Committee. You know, Selectman Markowitz gave me some information about how the town has been staffed over the past 20 years. I don't know how many of you were here 20 years ago, but back then we had 11 staff in Town Hall. It's the only department we have where we have the same number now. No change in 20 years. And yet the town has grown considerably since then. The other departments, dispatch, up, 1 staff, no, pardon me, 5, because we didn't have dispatch separately in 2002. DPW, up 2, fire, up 3, library, up 4, police, up 5, town hall, not up at all. I think we really do need more staff hours and timing at town hall. Well, you know, I hate to spend money, but what's prudent? If it costs, be prudent and pay for it. And I think we really do need to increase the staff. I think it is prudent to vote yes on this article. And thank you.
Susan Bach, 59 Burroughs Road. Mr. Moderator, are there 3 separate votes on this, or just 1 vote?
At this point, it's just 1 vote.
Is there a way to amend it so that we vote separately on each of these?
You could make a motion to split it into 3 votes.
Okay.
That's called technically dividing the question.
All right, then I move to amend and divide the question into 3 votes.
That is an appropriate procedural motion. We will now discuss that motion.
Well, I think, based on what I heard from FinCom, and actually personally, I do not support all of these. I support the last one as FinCom does. I'm not sure that an extra half hour for the 19-hour employees, is really going to make that much of a difference. And then the other one is the additional flexible floating hours feels like a little bit of a slush fund to me. So I would vote no on the first two and yes on the third.
Well, right now we have a motion on the floor to divide the question into 3 parts. That is debatable. That takes a majority vote. I don't see anyone at a microphone, so basically we are now voting on whether to divide the question into 3 parts, which technically means we will take 3 separate votes. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Seeing no one at a microphone, all those in favor of splitting the question into 3 votes, dividing the question, please raise your cards. Okay, all those that are opposed, please raise your cards. We need to do a count. Do we have counters? Come on, counters up front. Don't be bashful.
All right, so Christine and Becca, can you do this side? Mary and Karen? No, not Karen.
Yeah, you need Karen.
I guess we need Karen. Karen shouldn't, I don't think. Is there, Susan maybe?
No, she made the motion.
All right.
We
don't
need
have that many people.
we need someone who can count. Okay.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Liz. So you can do the middle with Mary.
Okay, all in favor, please stand.
And, can we swear her in after?
No, now.
Okay, come be sworn in.
Okay. A freebie market. What? Yeah, guys, sit down. We need her to be sworn in first. She got to be sworn. Okay, freebie market, Saturday, May 21st. Okay, is everything? The issue is one of the counters has a conflict. Since she's a town hall employee, so we have to have somebody who's not working at town hall. Okay, all in favor of dividing the question and taking 3 votes, please stand. So anyway, freebie market, grounds of the church, Saturday, May 21st, 10:30 to noon. Free food, reduce food waste, bring goodies, fruit, veggies, baked goods, craft supplies. Freebie market will be held on May 21st, June 11th, August 20th, and September 10th. Okay, everybody sit down. Everybody who's against dividing the question into 3 votes, please stand. So, free seedlings. Freebie market's a lot of fun. And it's Saturday, May 21st, 10:30 to noon on the church lawn. The town election will be next Tuesday at Town Hall from 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning till 8 at night. No, there are no contested races on the ballots, but please come and vote because people like to know that they're supported. So please come from 7 in the morning to 8 at night, Tuesday the 17th at Town Hall. 41 yes, 27 no, so we will take votes one at a time. Seeing no one at a microphone, I am going to take a vote on A.
Wes Folks, 155 Stowe Road. So on Monday, the select board, I think, pretty clearly outlined that there's a need for many tools to help with issues of staffing and morale at town hall. I can understand why people may be concerned with half an hour, adding it to a week for staff. However, I do believe that these two items, or if we're only talking about one, are very nominal in terms of giving us the tools to help alleviate the staffing issues. Additionally, just because we allocate it does not mean we need to spend it. These are tools that we can use to help with staffing. So I would encourage everybody to vote in support of this. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no, okay.
Heather Fleming, Stowe Road. Wes just said largely what I was going to say, but I want to echo it from my own perspective, as a lot of my job at MIT is effectively HR. I work a lot with thinking about morale and keeping teams motivated, and especially people that are overworked have a lot of burdens on them with very little return for their effort. A half an hour may not seem like a lot, but it's a huge amount. It's a vote of confidence showing that the town supports people at town hall. Yes, all small amounts of money add up, but small amounts of vote of support also really adds up for the people that are working so hard at town hall. So I support all of these.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. Mr. Moderator, through the moderator, can I ask a question of the assistant interim town administrator?
Sure.
Was this 0.5 part of the personnel plan that you presented to the select board?
It was.
And I'm just going to ask a general question. This is the first step. This is incremental to the needs that were identified in that analysis. More likely than not, over time, we will identify that more support may possibly be needed. But this is our beta test. It is only 0.5 a week, but coming from that environment, that extra half hour can mean a lot. And also to the point about Friday, Friday, the town hall was closed prior to the previous town administrator being on board. I believe, actually, 2017, we began to hold a late Thursday night and a half day on Friday at the behest of the select board. Previous to that, the staff would use Friday as their catch-up time to file, to prepare documents, to just do the regular rank and file work that needs to be done in a community such as this. So again, this is a small step so that the town can look in retrospect and see what additional supports need to be done to put in place. And it also will allow us to start taking a look at that commingling of services and seeing how we can provide support that way. Thank you.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I strongly support this, and I hope everyone here will. We have a fantastic group of dedicated employees throughout the community. Especially in town hall, these people work very hard in very cramped quarters. They need to be recognized. Many of them have spoken to us about how they feel shortchanged at some of the town meetings because it's their life and their livelihood that gets discussed. This is something that will help motivate them to a degree, just to a small degree, but it's a small step, as Cheryl mentioned. And if you're worried about how much the three items together will add 3/4 of a cent per thousand to your tax bill. 3/4 of a cent. Question number one will add 1/4 of a cent to your tax bill. So I strongly recommend for that money, you support this. Thank you.
Becky Neville, Middle Road. I would first say, to Wes's point, we can allocate it, we don't have to spend it. That is the wrong attitude to have, because we have taxpayers in town who really can't afford it. If we're gonna allocate it, we better spend it, because it's a problem for me that we would even have the mentality that, no, we can allocate it, but we don't have to spend it, because we're gonna tax it if we allocate it. And the other thing about Fridays, Cheryl, I remember when Selena closed Town Hall on Fridays initially, and there was a lot of discussion, but that's part of my recommendation. There was a lot of discussion about that, and it was done in a public meeting. It wasn't a sign slapped on a door 3 days before.
No, now we're getting far
Okay, I'm
afield.
done.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir?
Steve Jeffries, 286 Sergeant Road. Just a question for clarification. So does this 19 and a half hours apply to everybody at Town Hall? Just certain functions?
Currently, the standard for part-time employees is a cap of 19 hours. This moves about 3 or 4 positions to 19 and a half hours, adding around 80 hours over the course of the year, which is the equivalent of 4 weeks. So it doesn't apply to everyone, just to the part-time employees. It's the lowest cost means of increasing hours without hitting the benefit trigger point where we have to start providing benefits.
I'm not that familiar with the staffing plan, but what are those roles that are part-time that are affected by this?
The roles that would be hit immediately are the departmental assistant supporting assessing and accounting, the administrative assistant supporting the treasurer collector's office, the departmental assisting supporting the council on aging, and depending upon what happens in section C, the administrative support staff in the town clerk's office.
Thank you.
Mr. Neville, are you? Okay. Seeing no one in the microphone, we are voting on A. Does everybody understand that? We are voting only on A. All in favor of the 2,133 plus 31 plus 41 in A, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. You can put them down. All opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, that clearly carries by a majority vote. We are now voting on B. Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor of B, please raise your cards. Thank you so very much. Please put your cards down. All those against B, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. That passes by a majority vote also. C, upgrade positions. All in favor of C? Or there's someone at a microphone. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Through you to the someone, select board or the interim town administrator, he mentioned what happened on C would depend, I believe, on whether it was 3 or 4. These are all very specific dollar amounts, so why did you say that? What does that mean?
C upgrades position. So the costs associated with A and with C, with A, basically are to some extent whatever happens with C, because if you don't upgrade it, it has $1 cost. If you do upgrade it, it has a different dollar cost.
So if we don't vote, if C has a negative vote, we should revisit A and lower it?
Could, by some fraction, I'd have to calculate.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else at a microphone, all in favor of C, please raise their cards. Thank you so very much. Please put them down. All against C, please raise your cards. Okay, that motion appears to pass by a majority vote. Okay, we have gotten to 10. 10 through 21 are financial consent agendas. I'm going to explain this. Most of you are used to this, but I'm going to explain it slowly to make sure there's no question. Basically, Articles 10 through 21 have been identified as financial consent agendas. They have an asterisk in the warrant. These are articles that involve appropriations and transfers that we unanimously recommended by the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and Town Council and I have found no issues with them. I'm going to go through these articles one by one and read their names. If any voters object to including any particular article in the consent agenda and wish to debate it, just say hold in a loud voice when I read the title of that article, and we'll remove it from the consent agenda. After I read the name of 21, I'll ask for a motion from Mr. Folks for all the articles remaining on the consent agenda to be passed by one vote by town meeting. We're then going to go back and discuss the hold items if there are any. Article number 10 is police fire injury coverage transfer. Article number 11 is cable services and equipment. Okay. Article 13 is departmental revolving funds expense limits. Article 14 is fire department building improvements. Article 15 is fire department cistern inspections and repairs. Did I skip it? Oops, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Transfer to OPEB trust fund. I apologize. Thank you very much. I think I was doing Article 15, Fire Department Cistern Inspections and Repairs. Article 16, Fire Department Match Grant Funds for the pumper truck. Article 17 is the DPW dumpster. Article 18 is Community Preservation Fund, CPC report and establish fiscal 23 reserves. Article 19 is Community Preservation Fund, Community Housing, Boxborough Rental Assistance Program. Article 20 is Community Preservation Fund, Open Space, including Recreation, Conservation Trust Fund. And Article 21 is Community Preservation Fund, Historic Resources, Cemetery Restoration. So I would like a motion from the chair of the Select Board for Articles 10 and 12 through 21.
So,
because number 11 is being held.
So I move to approve the financial consent agenda warrant articles 10 and 12 through 21 in accordance with the funding sources and amounts set forth in the 2022 town meeting warrant under articles 10 and 12 through 21 respectively.
Moved and second. Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you so very much. All opposed, please raise your hands. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, we are discussing
Or wouldn't, do you need
Article
the motion
11.
first?
What?
Do you need the motion first before we
You just
discuss
made a
it?
motion.
No, not for Article 11.
Yes. So first thing is we'll turn to Article 11. Article 11 is on page 32 of your warrant. Could I have a motion under Article 11?
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $97,224 and no cents whatsoever. Said funds to be transferred from the PEG access and cable-related fund receipts reserved for appropriation account for the purpose of providing for fiscal year 2023 cable TV operations and for the acquisition of new equipment to improve the quality of the town's cable television broadcast quality and expand meeting coverage.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
So the Select Board unanimously recommends. We do believe that the broadcasting and recording meetings is an important function of democracy. However, we also wanted to take this time to make people aware that as people, I don't want to blame the millennials like myself for cord cutting, but there's less revenue coming from the PEG access and cable related fund receipts. And so we wanted to make people aware that if we continue these services in the future, we will likely be seeing this either as part of the operating expenses and or warrant articles to provide supplemental revenue for for the upkeep of the broadcast and cable services.
Am I good to go?
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends unanimously.
Okay, the first person to the mic is the one who asked for this to be held.
Yeah, Dave Fowler, 120 Cobley. Yeah, so my question is, when are we cutting the cord? Right, I mean, a number of us have done this at home. It's dramatically cheaper turning the cable off and just pulling everything off the internet, and I've no problem passing this as it is, but you're absolutely right. This is just going to increase as a function of time as this transition occurs.
So there's a little bit more complexity and nuance to this as well. So there's some legislation, and I don't know if, well, maybe Kirby can also come up and talk to it, but there is some legislation happening at the state level to start taxing people for the streaming services such as Netflix, Disney Plus, etc., which should supplement that. But at the current time, that legislation has not come to fruition, but it is on the table. However, while we can say the internet, there is a lot of post-production stuff done during meetings in order to record them. So you still need somebody to record the meetings and to process them and put them up, similarly to this town meeting where it is being broadcast. And so I was just using this as an opportunity to make people aware for the future.
Okay, but the question still stands, right? I mean, there's a basic sea change occurring in how bandwidth is delivered to the home. And, you know, and that's, as somebody in technology, that's going to continue to accelerate. I understand the staffing part of providing the services, but fundamentally, you know, cable is going away, right?
Yeah, so we also do host this on BXB-TV, and we can put it on YouTube and all that other stuff, but that still doesn't decrease the need for the cameras, the processing equipment, and all of that stuff. So what this is effectively doing is allowing us to appropriate the funds that we receive from the cable right-of-way agreements that we have with Verizon and Comcast. So as those reduce, and if the legislation does not pass for the taxation of the streaming services, or what Kirby would say is over-the-top services, likely we would not, this amount would be supplemented by either free cash and or raise and appropriate in the future. And so there's no, as more people reduce that, we still, or at least maybe that's a question that we can explore in the future, should people want these meetings to be recorded.
Okay, thank you very much.
Michael Toops, 118 Pine Hill Road. Actually, sort of a follow-up to the previous question. I remember when Verizon first came to town, we rejoiced in the fact that we were able to get this a certain amount of money set aside to basically cover broadcasting things within town under town services. And then when we first got our first bill, we were a little bit shocked to find this category, this part on the bill that said PEG fee, and it was being billed as an additional fee on top of the cost of the services, because for some reason, some of us naive people were assumed that the money was coming out of Verizon's profits, when in fact it was just negotiated as a pass-through tax. So this is really a tax by another form. But in light of the previous questioner, some of us dinosaurs and still have our cords. But does the town renegotiate the PEG agreement at some point in time?
Yeah, that's currently underway for negotiation, and typically, I don't really want to also, typically, I don't want to say we have to take what they give us, but they do try to point the blame at the town in terms of, like, there's many other services and fees that you don't see rolled out separately, and so this is their way of kind of sticking it to the town. So Verizon and Comcast have been negotiating shorter and shorter contracts. We've also seen about a 50% decline in household subscriptions to their services for cable TV. So this is only for cable TV. If you are subscribed for internet, there's no PEG fee as well. But so that is why this would likely be shifting the burden to the everyday taxpayer. And honestly, that's probably the right thing to do, because why should a few people pay for the benefit of the whole town?
So we think that basically in the future, what's currently our PEG fee will actually be rolled into a tax across the town as being appropriated at our town meeting floor?
So that is something that could be negotiated or renegotiated. I don't think the cable companies would push back on us asking for a lower fee. That also comes with making sure that we can get that passed at town meeting, because I do believe, and I think other people here would believe, that the recording and the services provided by BXB-TV and the lovely Kirby back there are very beneficial to the transparency and democracy of this town.
I do agree that the broadcasting the meetings is very important. My only concern is the transparency in the way which we maintain the funding of this, and a little bit of a concern that initially it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors and that we thought we weren't paying for it. It was coming out of the overhead, and surprise, surprise. Thank you very much.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. I don't disagree with Mr. Follett or Mr. Toops or even Mr. Falks's comments. However, this is an immediate funding question and not the contractual terms that the town will eventually be negotiating with Verizon and Comcast. The long and short, if you don't vote to approve this revolving fund transfer, the town will be unable to use this $97,000. This $97,000 is sitting in the bank. However, by function of law, the town cannot touch it unless this body votes to approve that transfer. Thank you.
Seeing no one else at a microphone, all in favor of this article, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That passes unanimously. Okay, we have now gone through 21, 22, and 23 were passed earlier. 24 is indicated as being on the consent agenda, but I was notified before the meeting that there will be an amendment to 24, so 24 is off the consent agenda. Motion under Article 24, Mr. Folks.
So I move that the town vote to amend its action under Article 11 of the June 22nd, 2020 annual town meeting by adding the language in bold italics as follows. Do I read the whole section or just the highlighted part?
Yeah, better read the whole thing.
Okay. To transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 to hire consultants to evaluate future town water needs, including potential solutions to water issues west of I-95, 495, issues west of I-495, and an appraiser to provide an appraisal of real property to establish a fair market value of said property and affiliated legal expenses, including all costs incidental and related thereto, as printed in the warrant.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Recommendation from the Select Board?
The Select Board unanimously recommends.
Okay, recommendation from the Water Resources Committee?
The Water Resources Committee recommended unanimously by a quorum of 4 persons that were present for that meeting.
Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee supports amending Article 11 of the 2020 ATM meeting. The issue of providing a source of clean water to the residents and businesses west of Route 495 in Boxborough needs to be solved. The amendment will allow the Water Resource Committee to continue to pursue a solution to this problem. This is a Boxborough community issue.
Ladies and gentlemen. Hello? Thank you. The reason why I want to make this amendment is the original amendment failed to...
Could you give your name and address, please, for the clerk?
My apologies. Mark Marlowe, Depot Road. The reason why I want to make this amendment is the original amendment failed to prove we need a new water supply. It said many of the private wells in this area have been affected by elevated levels of salt in the drinking water. However, it didn't establish if the elevated levels exceeded any FDA recommendations. Nor did it quantify how many wells were actually affected. Everybody knows that sodium is a necessary and required mineral we all need, but excess may be hazardous to your health. We need to establish whether there are other excesses.
Excuse me, just a second. You need to tell us what your amendment is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not...
I move to amend by...
I move... Okay. I thought I was... It's that sheet right there. Thank you.
Would you like me to read it?
Nope, I've got it. I move to amend by striking the words from the Article 11 of the June 2020 annual town meeting, quote, and appraiser to provide an appraisal of real property to establish a fair market value of said property and affiliated legal expenses, including all costs incidental and related thereto. Close
Okay.
quote.
So basically, it's to eliminate the last 3 lines. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
I won't repeat what I said. This amendment asks the WRC to hire consultants to determine there is an actual water problem, and if so, identify how broad the problem is. If the problem is a concern to specific populations, to estimate the number of affected persons. And if there is a problem, are there lower cost solutions available to solve the problem? Finally, it costs about $2 million per mile to deliver water to a home, to lay the pipe from this source. That would be about $10 million. I don't know how many residents are over there. I don't know how many people are affected by this problem. But filtration, local filtration may be a more economical solution. So I would ask the town to vote yes on this amendment and ask the WRC to quantify the problem and also tell us the most economical way to solve the problem. Thank you.
Recommendation of the Select Board. Or recommendation of the Water Resources Committee.
The Select Board does not recommend.
Recommendation of the Water Resources Committee.
The intention of the Water Resources Committee in repurposing the June 2020 article was to allow those funds to be used for general purposes on our charter, not just to appraise lands. So it's sort of immaterial whether we remove that language or not. It would still empower us to use those funds to assess water issues around the town, which was the original intent of the modification.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee does not recommend.
Yes.
Yes, you do. There's 4 of us. There's 4 of us.
Oh, I didn't see you. Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Well, on the last point, actually, as the chair of the Water Resources Committee, they had a vote on the original.
Stop. If you're making a comment, could you please go to a microphone? Because you've moved out of the point of order realm.
Well, this was a point of order that it was too late. I just realized the chair of the Water Resources Committee was speaking on the amendment, and we know that that was a unanimous recommendation of the original. So I don't know. We can just understand that the chair has spoken, and I don't think
Okay,
it matters. Thank
so
you.
the point that is made is legitimate. 1, the chair of the Water Resources Committee has made a recommendation, but not the entire committee because a quorum of the committee did not talk. That's a very legitimate point of order. Anyway, so basically we have an amendment, and the amendment is to remove those words. Does anyone have a discussion on the amendment?
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to ask a question of Town Council through you. Point 1, does this proposed amendment meet the legal threshold for the functions that the Water Resources intends to use for this article? Is it a legal amendment to this proposal?
In my opinion, it's a legal amendment.
And then also, my concern is, I understand that we want to keep it short and sweet, but removing this language could potentially limit the town's flexibility in trying to address the significant water resource concerns, not just on the I-495 section, but again, throughout the community in a more global perspective. So I have some serious concerns about limiting the functions that would be allowed under this article.
Mark Barbadoro, 627 Old Harvard Road. I have a question for Mr. Fox. He is our chair on the Water Resources Committee. And Les, can you tell us what the appraisals will be used for? Because I may have voted in favor of this, but I'm still a little fuzzy.
No,
so
you
I
were
apologize.
actually the absent member that night, I
Okay.
remember. The original language, which included the language for appraisals, was shaped around looking for a source of water in a certain part of town. And since that is not the intent of this new article, to repurpose those funds to broaden the activity to include all of the items on our charter, looking all over the town for water issues, water quality issues, and make recommendations. That's really the heart of what we're trying to do here. So removing the language about appraisals has no material effect on our intentions. So I would view it as harmless. It does add a restriction to our ability, but I see it as sort of an immaterial restriction.
Okay, so...
but again, we're not, as you know, I can't speak for the entire committee. That's my opinion.
No, but you can speak for me on this one because we actually agree on this one. So I just want to say that I'm not sure the need for the assess the real value of property at the moment. There's a couple of issues that I think the Water Resources needs to work harder on, and one of them is there is a lot of grant funding available for the problems of environmental justice communities, and I don't think we've explored that fully, and I don't think that there's ever really been a study on how to help these people through filtration. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, not to slow the process down, but look for other solutions other than just bringing water into the space. If it's cheaper to filter the water, and I know it's a very expensive process, but it does cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to bring water down a road. So I'd like to consider all the options. So I'm in favor of removing that. I don't think we need to do a property assessment at this time, and I think we need to work harder on figuring out what our solution and recommendation should be to the select board. Thanks.
Mark Marlowe, Depot Road. I'd like to move the question.
You can't move the question because you made the motion. Somebody else can move the question who didn't make the motion.
Michael Toops, 118 Pine Hill Road. Just a quick clarification. The language in this, the added language says including potential solutions to water issues west of 495. Does that limit the board from looking at issues east of I-495? Because the term is including, not solely.
Yeah, it includes it, but does not preclude other parts of town.
All right, thank you.
Bob Semple, 53 Kendall Road. I move the question.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote now on this. All in favor of voting now, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your hands. Okay, that clearly passes by a 2/3 majority. We are now voting, what? Okay, put the words as printed in the warrant back in. Wait a second. No, it didn't. As printed in the warrant should not have been there. That was a typographical error. Thank you very much. As printed in the warrant should not be there. Okay, because it should have ended. It should have ended with a there too. Okay. We are now voting on the amendment to eliminate basically everything after 495. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your cards. Okay, all opposed? Okay, we need to take a vote. That's too close. Okay, we can start all over again with my announcements, or I can be quiet. Would you like me to start with the announcements or be quiet? No. Okay, all in favor of the amendment to remove everything after 495, please stand.
Standing vote.
All in favor of the amendment, please stand. Get rid of is printed in the warrant. Kelly, get rid of is printed in the warrant. Get rid of is printed in the warrant. I know, I'm trying to tell her. Get rid of is printed in the warrant. Get rid of it. Thank you. I was not trying to whisper. I'm well aware. Okay, all in favor, please sit down. All opposed, please stand. Pfeiffer's Day, June 18th. Be there or be square. Golden Fife, box in the back of the room. Deadline's May 20th. Golden Fife Parade Marshal. Garden Club plant sale, May 14th, 9 to 12. Lots of good plants. Very Boxborough hardy. Okay, everybody sit down. Yes was 25, no was 45. The motion is defeated. We are back to the original item.
Mr. Moderator, Owen Neville, 317 Middle Road. Given that the June 22nd, 2020 town meeting ended a couple of Junes ago, I would suggest that an amendment is not in order because amendments happen during the meeting. All due respect to learned town council who spoke to this a few minutes ago, would not a better motion be to repurpose the funds appropriated under Article 11 in 2020?
John Eichmann, Town Council. It might be maybe a better way to put it, but will have the same effect, in my opinion. So I think it's still in order.
It is still legal to do something even though town meeting was over 2 Junes ago?
Yeah, you're not changing what town meeting did. You're repurposing the purpose for which you can use the money. The money is still there.
Which is why I thought it should say repurpose rather than amend, since amendments happen during a meeting. Thank you.
Potentially could have been said differently, but I think it's effective. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor of get rid of it was printed in the warrant. As printed in the warrant is not there. It ends it there too, okay? Does everybody understand that? Okay, all in favor of what's on the screen with except for is printed in the warrant, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, that motion passes. We are now going to the consent agenda. Consent agenda for Articles 25 through 29. I will read the names of the articles. If anybody wants to discuss any of the articles, please say hold and we will do so. Article 25, Taylor Farm Road Acceptance. Article 26, Gift of Land. I will notice in Article 26 there was a typographical error in the warrant. Thanks to number of people brought that to our attention. Thanks to Mr. Neville, who was the first one to find it. Basically, the warrant said parcel 20-044-000. The actual parcel is 20-046-000. So that's number 26, which is a gift of land. So hold on 26. 27 is highway reimbursement. 28, Chapter 90 Highway Reimbursement Program. 28 is general bylaw, construction, post-construction general bylaw. 29 is acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 148, Section 46H, and 26L, fire suppression. Seeing no comments on 25, 27, 28, and 29. And I think I did that correctly. 25, 27, 28, and 29. Could I have a motion from Mr. Fulks?
I move to approve the non-financial consent agenda warrant articles 25 and 27 through 29 in accordance with the funding sources and amounts set forth in the 2022 annual town meeting warrant under articles 25 and 27 through 29 respectively.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hands. All opposed, please raise your hands. That motion carries unanimously. Article 26.
I move that the town vote to authorize the select board to acquire upon such terms and conditions as select board may determine in its discretion a parcel of land located at 144 Summer Road comprising of about 7.5 acres identified as parcel 20-046-000 on the town's assessor's maps, said land being shown as Lot C on plan entitled Plan of Land in Acton, Mass. And Boxborough, Mass., owned by Mildred L. Erickson, dated November 23rd, 1973, by Acton Survey and Engineering Incorporated, recorded with the Middlesex South District Registry of Deeds in Book 12,573, page 67, for recreational, accessory, and related purposes, such as attendee parking and sheds for recreational equipment and field maintenance.
Moved and seconded. Recommendation, Select Board.
The select board definitely recommends this unanimously.
Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee fully supports the sale of the land to the town. We want to thank Ruth Erickson Landry for the donation of her land to the town.
Does the Recreation Commission have a recommendation?
Unanimously recommends this. We're grateful to Ruth for her generosity. Appreciate it very much.
Dave Follett, 120. I wanted to know what the recommendation of the RecCom was, and we now have that. So.
Okay. Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you so very much. All opposed? That carries unanimously. Again, I think on behalf of this meeting and everybody in town, a large vote of thanks is due to the donor of this land. This is just a wonderful thing for somebody to do, and it's just wonderful. So that's all you can say about it.
Mr. Moderator, may
yes.
I make a comment? Yeah, thank you for making that statement. I was a little concerned that if this went by smoothly on a consent agenda, we would not be able to give due recognition and thanks to Ruth Landry, who has made this generous gift to the town. It is her wish that it be used for the purposes described in the article, and I want to thank Gene Kangas for working with me over the past 2 or 3 years with Ruthie to make this happen. So I feel good about this, and I hope you do too. There's been a lot of talk that this will end up being a girls' softball field, which I think a lot of people would like to see.
Okay, we are now on Article 30. Article 30 is on page 69 of your warrant.
This is a long one. Okay. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $300,897.70 for the purpose of maintaining roadways in Boxborough, including the payment of any costs incidental or related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, authorize the treasurer with approval of the select board to borrow the sum of $300,000 under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7, 1 of general laws or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and appropriate and transfer the sum of $897.70 received from the Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund pursuant to Chapter 187 of the Acts of 2016.
Is there a second? Select Board recommendation.
We recommend.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends 5-1.
Discussion from the floor.
Christine Marlowe, Depot Road. I'm just concerned about today and the first day we have spent $127 and 36 cents. There. And 36 cents. We've added that to our tax bill. And I know it doesn't sound like a ton, but I keep going back to this. There are people on fixed incomes. They have had to endure between $1,000 to $1,500 a month this winter for their heating bills. And we keep adding this. So I guess I just want to know, is this really necessary in this time? Or is there a way to postpone it to another time so we can give our fixed income people some breaks? That's my question. I guess the Select Board or FinCom can answer it.
Or Ed Kukla, are you there? Hi, Ed. I don't know if you'd like to add anything, but it's my understanding that the reason why we continue to do this road maintenance is because otherwise we just punt it and it becomes a bigger problem. So the more we push it off, the more money it costs to repair, because there's remedial stuff we can do in the short term, and Ed has put together a road maintenance plan. Is that correct? Good. Okay. And so this is just part of the road maintenance plan to maintain and keep it consistent, because otherwise in future years you would see a significant cost increase or appropriation because the roads deteriorate significantly.
Okay, so I apologize that I didn't do my research ahead of time, but we passed Article 27, which is the highway reimbursement program. That doesn't coincide with this, is that correct? They were added together? Oh, okay.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so could that?
So that was just like money that the state gives us.
Okay. And is it possible that will cover these expenses and the tax increase won't be so great, or this is what you anticipate our taxes rising for this project?
So we have consistently put this on. I think that just this year the intention was to bond it, and I believe that was made. So just to kind of bring it back, we do the funding sources a while ago when the interest rates were lower, and I think that's why the intention here was to bond it. But typically we do ask for this set amount of money every year just to have consistent road repair and maintenance.
Always 300,000.
Time out. Slow down. He is answering her question.
I know, but he was talking about bonding. We always bond.
Stop, please. Let him finish.
So apparently we always bond it. Thank you, Becky.
Okay. Thank you. I just feel like we need to be paying more attention to the members of our town that have a fixed income. Like I said, we've added over the last couple days $127 and some cents to their tax bill. So I guess going forward, I wish we would be more thoughtful of all of that. Thank you.
That is less than the cost of a new tire or alignment on your car.
Yeah. Gary Kushner, 158 Flag Hill Road.
Time out. I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just wanted to kind of speak to his last comment.
Yeah, that's fine.
I understand that it's less than a tire, but if you're on a fixed income, it could also be a prescription that you can't purchase. So I just want us to be more considerate, or just let people know this is not going to be a town if you're on a fixed income. Those are some things we should be thinking about. Thank you.
Gary Kushner, 158 Flag Hill Road. I'm on the Finance Committee, so I'm representing the Finance Committee sort of in discussion, but the town has a capital plan, and it's in the warrant. This item is in the capital plan every year, and the issue is, as was mentioned in a previous speaker, we get Chapter 90 funds. What we've learned is that comes from the state based upon your buying gasoline. What we've learned is it's not enough to keep up with the roads. We've been doing this approximately $300,000 pretty regularly for the last 4 to 5 years now, and expect to continue. The roads are, in some cases, are really in bad shape. And again, Chapter 90 is just not enough to get us up to where we need to be. So by providing this bond, this $300,000 as bond, again, it will probably be a 5 or 10 year bond, depending on what the treasurer picks, will help us get caught up, or at least for the roads we're planning to do this year. So I just want to remind everybody that, again, we have a capital plan. This is in the capital plan. It's there. It's going to be there every year in order to keep the roads up to shape, or people on even fixed income, when they break their shocks because they hit the potholes, is going to have a bigger expense. We need to protect the roads, otherwise they're going to be in much worse shape. Thank you.
I just grabbed the DPW's director's ear, and he refreshed my memory to do an entire repaving. It cost the town $200,000 per road mile. Chapter 90 is, I believe, $246,000 this year, or thereabouts. That means that you would get 1.25 miles, 1.25 miles of road paved if you just use Chapter 90 funds, which previously, 10 years before, that was all the town was doing. When I moved to town, there were roads that, if you've ever cut through to Littleton, if you're familiar with Foster Road, that was what roads in this town look like. Also, to the point that Mr. Fulks and Mr. Kukla made, there is now a graduated mediation road maintenance plan in place, which I can let the two of them speak to it, but my recollection is, for the roads that have a few cracks, they do seal it. For the roads that are having some crumbling issues, they do a skim coat. For the roads that look like Foster Road in Littleton, they have to do an entire grind down, close the street for potentially a day, 2 days. So this is maintenance. This is dealing with the wear and tear in your community. And to Mr. Kushner's point, people blow out tires on bad roads. And also, on Tuesday night, this body voted twice this amount of money to preserve forest lands that I understand we'll be using as passive recreation, but that's not going to get my kids to school. That's not going to get me down to Idlewild to buy my groceries. And that's not going to get us paving the railroad crossing on Sargent and Davidson. Thank you.
Seeing no one in a microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your card. That clearly carries by a 2/3 vote, which was required because it involves bonding. Motion under Article 31. Ms. Kangas.
Mr. Moderator, Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. I chair the Steel Farm Advisory Committee, and I move that we pass over this article.
It's been moved and seconded that we pass over this article.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, it may seem not to be a lot of money, but if you had to pay for it right now out of your own pocket, I think you'd agree it's a lot of money. Fortunately, the Steel Farm Advisory Committee, it's pretty frugal. We like to do things as much as possible with volunteers. And after putting in a lot of thought and making a few phone calls, I contacted Susan DiLorenzo. Susan and Paul are building a house on Middle Road that actually overlooks the farm. And they also own a home improvement company. And I spoke with her, actually she spoke with me a couple of years ago and noted, gee, that ice house really needs paint and help. Roof is in terrible shape. So I called her back, and she and her husband have volunteered to provide time, talent, and materials. That is, any materials that Steel Farm doesn't already have, to repaint and reshingle the ice house. And I'm very, very thankful and appreciative to them for volunteering. Volunteering is really the heart of Boxborough. Thank you.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Recommends moving over, passing over.
Select Board recommendation.
The Select Board recommends.
Dick Wagman, 86 Leonard Road. Just to try to summarize that, do I understand that the reason you're effectively withdrawing this is that you've been able to find local talent and donations of materials that will take care of the problem, so we don't need to transfer anything?
That's correct.
Thank you, that clarifies that.
Seeing no one in the microphone, all in favor, please raise your cards. All opposed, please raise your cards. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much to the family that has agreed to do the work. Article 32.
I move that the town vote to transfer $25,000 from free cash for the design and installation of a PFAS remediation system for the town hall well.
Moved and seconded. Recommendation, Select Board.
We unanimously recommend.
Excuse me?
Unanimously recommend.
Okay. Did the Water Resources Committee have a chance to meet?
Yes, Water Resources Committee did meet on the 13th of April, which was after the warrant went to print, and we voted to recommend this article 4-1 for the reasons outlined in the summary and the Select Board's recommendation. The minority was concerned about the expense of ongoing maintenance.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee does not recommend 1 to 4. Although the Finance Committee supports the remediation for the health and safety of our employees, we believe the funding should be from ARPA funds, $150,000 of which has been earmarked for town improvements.
Okay.
Janet Connolly, 152 Flag Hill Road. I have a number of questions about this. A very brief description from the sponsor. I need to understand how the amount of $25,000 was determined would be sufficient for remediation.
Well, we don't know that it's sufficient yet. That's a rough estimate for where we stand right now. Due to the lack of town hall staff resources to chase quotes and do the kind of homework you like, we had to go with a very rough estimate based upon what we knew the church had spent on a remediation system and a few other data points. We did get 2 quotes from 2 vendors, but they're only for the filtration aspect of a remediation system. There's also the aspect of the plumbing required to install the cartridges and so forth. So we don't really know, but since the quotes that came in for the heart of the system are substantially less. One was in the range of 12 to 15,000. The other one was in the range of just under 10,000. So if you add some uncertainty for the plumbing to do all the rest of the job, I feel comfortable that the amount we're requesting will be sufficient to cover it. That's what we know about it. And if the article passes, one of the things we'll do is go and get quotes and try to get the cost down by being more clever about design. This is just a very rough first cut.
Okay, I would suggest it may not be sufficient to bring about what you're trying to do. The question I had was, another question is, why was bottled water originally supplied to Town Hall, and when was that done?
You have to.
Why was bottled water originally supplied?
Okay, this is a long story. As far as I can remember, and I think this goes back to maybe at least 10 years, folks in Town Hall just didn't like the way the water tasted coming out of the well that's at Town Hall. And so we've been supplying bottled water there for a long time, literally as long as I can remember. I think all during Selena's tenure, for example, and certainly during Ryan's. So when we, as a town, began to realize there was PFAS in the neighborhood, there was a DEP sampling program that many of you, or some of you, may have taken advantage of. The public water supplies nearby, including the church, as a public water supply, had to be tested before October 1st, and the carriage house up Mass Avenue was also tested. They had quite high PFAS. And so given that, we thought that, we better test the Town Hall well. It's right in the neighborhood to see what the situation is. Now, the Town Hall well is not a public water supply. This is a little strange, but it's true. From the point of view of DEP, it's just like the private well at your home. It's not regulated by DEP. If you were to find contaminants in your well at home, whatever it may be, it would be up to you, the homeowner, to provide good water to the people who drink it. But there's no regulatory or legal requirement to do that. It's just an advice. When we tested the Town Hall well and found that its PFAS was quite high, more than twice the legal limit or the maximum contaminant level published by DEP, the committee felt that to set a good example and to remove all doubt about whether the water is safe to drink from the point of view of PFAS for our residents who come into Town Hall and our employees who work there every day, we thought it would be best to take the high road and to treat the entire system so that there's no chance anyone would be exposed to PFAS in the sinks and sources of water within Town Hall. So that's why we recommended to the Select Board that they do this, and that's the path we're on now. So what the plan would be is that we want to treat it as though it were going to try to meet the standards of a public water supply without being regulated as such. So we're going for a design that would have the kinds of features that you would expect to see in a larger scale system. It's very similar to what the church has to do, because that is a public water supply.
Does the church use their well for drinking water?
Yes.
So they're required to treat it to the standard, but you're providing bottled water to Town Hall, so there's no reason to remediate water that's not being supplied as drinking water.
That's right. We are working, currently there is a, I want to get the exact language correct, a notice from DEP. It comes to us in the form of what they call a release log, and it talks about how they found out about the water, because we sent them the results of the test sample that we drew. And of course, when a test lab, a qualified lab, tests in water and finds PFAS, they must report that to both the local Board of Health and DEP. So DEP knows about it, and they have a plan, it's an approved oral plan, which says we can continue to provide bottled water, and that would be okay by them. But we felt that wasn't going far enough because of what I mentioned earlier about the message it would send, bad optics, if you will. Why don't we go all the way and try to treat beyond what the minimum necessary is? Now, whether there's a way to reduce the cost by rearranging the plumbing so that not all of the water has to be treated as though it were drinking water. I mean, let's face it, the bulk of the water that's consumed at Town Hall is for flushing toilets. You don't need to treat that for PFAS, but splitting out the plumbing system to solve that problem might be more money than it's worth. We don't know yet. That'll be something we're going to look at.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that help or hurt?
No, well, I think this is an opportunity for us as a town to talk about important things like contaminants in our wells, and like you said, set examples. But what we have is we have an article in which remediation is in the title, so it's presumptuous that remediation is actually required. So we're thinking about the risk associated with PFAS and delivered in water in Town Hall. We need to think about what the pathways of exposure are. So if you're drinking the water, which they are not, that will be your primary pathway of exposure. DEP has stated that washing your hands in this water, even showering in this water, dermal contact, in other words, getting it through your skin, does not pose a risk to health at all. And the potential for inhalation of these particular constituents in water is very low, particularly if it's in a basin or a toilet. So what we're talking about are routes of exposure. The primary pathway of concern for PFAS in water is in drinking water. The water is not being drunk. So I really want it to be known to the people at Town Hall that I don't believe it's posing a risk to their health. So if we are to spend money on something that isn't posing a risk to health, we are actually sending the wrong message. We're saying, oh, this is easy to do, maybe we can do a carbon filtration system and we will look like we've done something to improve health, when in fact we're not. We're diverting resources to problems that we could be focusing on with respect to water resources in our town. Groundwater protection, maybe an inventory of PFAS sources within the town and other places where we could look to apply some remediation, or at least understand better where PFAS could be coming into the private wells and the non-public wells that are in town. I think that diverting money to solve a problem that does not exist is not the best use of this $25,000 free cash.
Yeah, I think it would be a matter of
Excuse me.
Sorry.
There, that was her statement. We're on to the next speaker.
Yeah, Dave Fall at 120. So a previous speaker said most of what I was going to say from a technical perspective. I would add the following. Turns out a friend of mine who I was very close to in college is the point person for PFAS working for the state of New York. And two things out of that. One is, again, this is the risk here is oral, right? Not washing your hands or taking showers or anything like that. And their general approach is to basically, as a quick remediation, is basically just to put carbon filters in under the sinks where there might be drinking water and so forth extracted. I know that the state of New York has been quite concerned that contractors would exploit the scare to put in household-wide systems and so on and so forth, when in fact that's actually not necessary, because the transfer mechanism of this is very well known. You're drinking the water, right? And so the only water that needs to be treated is that which is going to be orally consumed. And $25,000 seems like a tremendous amount of money to, I don't know, what we have 4 sinks in town with taps. It seems out of line with the scale of the actual problem.
Dick Wagman, 86 Leonard Road. I'm not a water quality expert. Apparently, judging by this discussion and the print up in the warrant, it seems like I'm the only person in Boxborough who has no idea what PFAS is. So would somebody please explain to me what PFAS stands for and why it's a bad thing?
Something like polyamperfluoroalkylanes or something like that, okay? It's a set of regulated compounds that are long-chain hydrocarbons that persist a very long time in the environment. Common sources are firefighting foam, waterproofing materials, Teflon pans, it's everywhere. And it shows up all over the country. And many water district suppliers throughout the United States are trying to address the problem of what to do about it. Massachusetts has taken the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection has taken a very aggressive stance on PFAS setting the limits, much more stringent than the EPA standards that are nationwide. The limit in Massachusetts is 20 parts per trillion. The EPA is 70 parts per trillion. So it's a big, long molecule that does bad things if you consume a lot of it, and that's based upon a lifetime of consumption and so on and so on. So yeah, it wouldn't apply to everybody uniformly, and DEP always points out that it's up to you to understand and judge what your personal risk is before you take any measures.
Does that answer your question?
Well, that's a start on it. I guess the question is, I hereby oppose PFAS, just for the record. I would like to know, judging by some of the other discussion from other people here, have we considered why did you choose this particular form of remediation? Have you considered the possibility of, for example, just remediating the drinking things? Is this a really good, do you believe this is a really good expenditure for us, and if so, why?
Well, the activated charcoal filtration is kind of this system of choice these days. There are a couple of variants on that. The expense comes from sizing it, and in the absence of the ability to separate out the flow, you size the system for the maximum throughput of the well, assuming that all is being consumed. Now, for example, if the town hall were a public water supply, all of the water that goes out would have to meet that DEP standard. It's not a public water supply by standards. So we're on our own. It's a very gray area, in my opinion. And so what is the right thing to do? What level should be treated? And we've taken the position that it's best to err on the side of being conservative and safe for employees and the public. We're going to look for ways to cheapen the solution by perhaps restricting the delivery, so it's only going to be filtered for the cold water taps in the sinks and the kitchen, and not worry about the toilets. But we don't know if that's feasible.
All right. If you find that you can manage to do it for considerably less than this amount, does that mean you just don't spend the money and it goes back to free cash or something like that?
That's where it always goes, right?
Okay, thank you.
Mark Barbadoro, 627 Old Harvard Road. If it was mentioned, I missed it. How many parts per trillion did the well test out at?
At Town Hall?
Yeah.
Well, there were 2 sample points, and they were very close. The average was 54.
54 parts per trillion?
The DEP maximum is 20.
Okay. So it's over the limit. If it was a public water supply, it would have to be, DEP would require it to be filtered.
Yes.
I actually did happen to vote against this because if the staff at Town Hall is not drinking out of the taps and they're drinking out of the Poland Spring bottle, I mean, we should just be investing more money in cups for the Poland Spring thing. And not a lot of money on the filtration. But I was told that from someone at DEP, and this is hearsay, of course, but that a lot of the products that we use often contain a lot of PFAS, personal products, deodorants through shampoo, even toothpaste has high levels of PFAS in it.
That's true to my belief, yes.
So that and the leaching fields in proximity to wells mean that your septic system is delivering your PFAS into your drinking water. I just think it's a lot of money if no one's drinking it, and the only faucets are in the bathrooms or someplace where people are unlikely to be drinking out of the tap. Then put up a sign, put it in a couple languages and in Braille.
Now we have put up signs in case anyone's wondering. So,
Mark Marlowe, Depot. How deep is the well at City Hall? How deep is that well?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear this question.
How deep is the well?
How deep is the town hall? I do not know that. Wells typically in Boxborough are in the range of 250 feet, plus or minus, maybe deeper.
And where does the water that is not filtered go after it's flushed?
Well, it's captured in carbon granules that are part of the system.
As it currently is.
And then it needs to be disposed of as a hazardous material. And that's
Okay, so I'm sorry. No. He's talking about today's septic.
Where does the water go when you flush the toilet today?
Oh, where does the water go? It goes into the septic system.
And do you have neighbors?
Town hall?
Yeah, are there neighbors around there? And does the water that goes in the septic system, does that go into the neighbor's water table?
Well, it's like any septic system, it goes into a leach field, which, you
Yeah.
know, disperses the effluent.
So if I understand correctly, the PFAS water is coming up into the town hall, being flushed, going out into leach field, and then spreading around the area, is that right?
Yeah, just, that's pretty much true, yeah.
Yeah, so in effect, your neighbors are being affected by this problem, whether they had it in their own well or not.
I think I think that would be true, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, for that reason there, I'm in favor of this. I did want to ask one more question. The ARPA funds, why is the select committee not for doing this through the ARPA funds?
Due to the sequence of events, and Carter, I'll invite him to speak in more detail, but we actually did consider the use of ARPA funds. I brought that up to the select board, but the ARPA funding process was a bit slow to get started, and we, at some point, long about the so-called lost revenue process for use of the funds, which is beneficial to the town, that plan for use of the ARPA funds that came to Boxborough was approved in January of 2022. That was approved by the select board. In March, I proposed to the select board that instead of bringing an article to town meeting, why don't we use ARPA funds to do that? And the board thought that, well, that would be upsetting to the people who had already counted on what was in the plan that had been approved by the select board. And so to change that would require a vote of the select board to reallocate the funds, and we as a board decided not to do that. We opted to bring this to the town meeting. But thanks for bringing that point up.
Yes, Steve Ballard. I just had a question about, do you know and have you tested the wells that service the other employees in DPW, fire, police, and the library, for example?
Oh, you're asking about the levels of PFAS in those wells?
Yes, because I know there's been PFAS testing in other areas around there.
Yes.
And including the
DPW well, which is further up Mass Avenue, has a modest amount. It's well below the standards, so that doesn't need to be treated. The police and fire station, like the library and the school, are all consuming water from the Hager well, which has 0 PFAS in it.
That's what I thought. I just wanted. Thank you.
George cruises in 69 at Depot Road. I've been listening to the conversation here, and I would advise not voting for this and continue at the town hall using the bottled water. I used to be in the water treatment business long before PFAS, so I have sort of been interested in this, and there are a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. PFAS, I think, I keep forgetting this, but I think it's polyfluoroalkyl species. Now, these, in the manufacture of these fluoride compounds, they have as waste all sorts of chains that contain fluoride, and when a town wants to test, somebody has to make a decision which of these many types of polymer links you're going to check in the analytical process. And in Massachusetts, they just used, I think, the latest research, and they figured out that the test will determine 3 or 4 or 5, but they don't know the whole story. And I know that Littleton is engineering a system for their drinking water, and they are building it, And I don't know what sort of a process they are using, but there is a good chance that in the future, another type of test will be required that will determine other species of the fluoride compounds. And so I would say, why don't we wait and save the $25,000 and use the drinking water for the time being? I think that would be one cut to the town that we could make until the water industry determines that this test is the best there is to get a measure of the things which really affect the people's health.
Jean Kangas, 959 Hill Road. What's the cost per year of providing the bottled water?
Annual cost for bottled water?
Yeah, what's the cost?
We're not aware of that at this time.
Is it $25,000?
Most likely not.
It would seem to me, in this day of higher costs, oil, gas for your car, food for your family, educational costs, it would be far wiser, well, let's say more prudent, to continue providing bottled water than to spend $25,000 on a remediation system, which Mr. Cruson has just suggested the science of that may change. Also, since the town hall is not water supply, the well is not a public water supply, I think, Mr. Fox, you mentioned that it's more like a home system, a well for your house. I received information from a resident that talks about how she and her family solved their PFAS problem by using a vendor for it, and put a filter in the sink, and the system costs $600, and the filters that need to be replaced every 500 gallons cost $174. That's to the nearest whole dollar. And that's a heck of a lot less than $25,000. But without spending any more seconds of my time or yours, I suggest we just vote no on this and continue to provide the bottled water, which is a lot cheaper than $25,000. Thank you.
Janet Connolly, Flag Hill Road. Since we have the opportunity and we're talking about PFAS, I wanted to share what this acronym actually means so that we all going forward knows it. It's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So this is just a catch-all acronym that describes 1,000 different chemicals that can be in this category, 6 of which are being regulated by DEP. So like our water filtration specialist said, there are a lot more chemicals there. DEP has a fact sheet online. You can just say DEP fact sheet, PFAS. And in that fact sheet, it will say that many of the systems that are being sold, particularly the household ones, are not effective in reducing PFAS constituents to the drinking water standard. They will reduce to 70 part per trillion, which is the EPA standard. And in Massachusetts, we have a more stringent standard. And DEP is warning people that if you're using these off-the-shelf systems, they are not effective to reducing it down to 20 ppt. So you would have to evaluate the effectiveness of the system that you chose. So we just need to keep that in mind that, again, we're buying something we think will work. We don't know if it will, but we're trying to solve a problem that we don't actually have.
Are you at a microphone?
Yes, I am. Move the question.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote now. All in favor of voting now, please raise your cards. All opposed to voting now? That carries by 2/3. Okay, we are voting on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you so very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion is defeated. Thank you. Mr. Barbadero, before we take up the zoning bylaw amendments, could you please provide the Planning Board's report on Article 33 and 34? This is the one where you say you held hearings. No, it's in your email. If you just want to say that you held duly authorized.
We held hearings.
And they were duly advertised, and it's...
We held hearings. They were duly advertised, and they
Right.
were
Okay.
posted
Super.
appropriately, and they were held.
Thank you very much. Okay. Motion under Article 33.
Hi. Are you making a motion, or am I? You make it. Okay. I'd like to move to the town to vote to amend Boxborough zoning bylaws, section 4003, business industrial use table, Article 4, use regulations, Article 5, dimensional requirements, footnotes, and adding section 7800, solar energy systems, small scale, ground mounted, and roof mounted, and by adding the following language in bold italics and deleting the language indicated by strike-throughs, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the zoning bylaw be permitted in order to that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the zoning bylaw as presented in the warrant.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Presentation.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca Werner. I'm here representing the Planning Board. And we have, as Mark has said, we've combined the article. You've got it. Article 33 and Article 34 for speeding this along for everyone this evening has been combined into one presentation. So we'll talk about both small scale and medium and large in the same presentation.
And as is noted in the warrant, the Planning Board recommended unanimously 5-0, correct?
Yes. That's correct. Okay. So in summary, the whole idea behind these zoning bylaws is to put in place bylaws that promote and provide clear and consistent guidance on siting, operations, and eventual removal and recycling of solar energy systems, which I'm going to refer to as SES in this presentation just for clarity. While minimizing the impacts on the scenic, rural, natural, and historical community resources. These proposed bylaws are being proposed to bring local regulation for solar energy systems that currently does not exist in our bylaws. There's no reference to solar energy systems within our bylaws and of any size as an allowed use, and thus this could be in conflict with state laws. So adopting these bylaws is providing clarity for solar energy system installations in Boxborough. Okay, whoops. So the things I want to talk about today is importance of careful siting for these proposed installations, why we need a bylaw or bylaws in the town of Boxborough, what types of solar energy systems can be installed in different various districts, and what is the maximum size interconnections that we can do for residences and farms, and then costs and revenues and savings. So This may look familiar to last year, but I just want to talk about siding first. Everybody knows that we have a fairly sizable installation located over by 495 and 111, so Boxborough Community Solar. It's about 20 plus acres. It provides about 2,000 residents with an opt-in monthly $250 renewable energy credit if they opt in from LELD, and it generates about $32,000 in annual revenue for the town. Now, though it has its benefits to the town, it also has its detriments, this installation. This particular one had over 20 acres of forested land that was cleared in order to get it put in, which resulted in a lot of habitat loss, a lot of visual buffer loss, and a lot of added noise levels to the residents abutting this property. It's also located above the Massachusetts DEP wetlands and the Elizabeth Brook Reservoir. So there's impacts to drainage and the stormwater movement and patterns. Also located within the Aquifer District. So the Aquifer District is obviously put into place to preserve our groundwater and recharge areas. And further, it's cleared forested land that was within the Mass DEP habitat of potential regional and statewide importance. So that's a mapping of landscapes with the highest potential wildlife habitat valued as measured in a statewide assessment. And then it's also within priority habitat that's identified by the Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. So that is responsible for protecting statewide ranges of endangered species and native biological diversity. So trees are very, very important, obviously. They sequester, and we've heard this a couple of times over the course of our town hall meetings here, but they sequester CO2 and they permanently tuck it away. We have some of the best forests in the country, or among the world, I guess, for sequestering, storing carbon. So when we deforest areas of trees, we release all that carbon back into the world, and it has a lot of negative benefits also for, trees offer a lot of positive benefits for the climate. They filter water, and especially in this location above the aquifer, it's very important. They provide for wildlife habitat and then remove pollutants and nitrates and sulfides. They also prevent erosion. Okay, so we took a model, the DOER, Department of Energy Resources, model bylaw. They further support kind of some of the approaches that the planning board took in preparing these bylaws. They state that the DOER strongly discourages locations that result in significant loss of land and natural resources, including farm and forested lands. They encourage rooftop sightings, as well as locations in industrial and commercial districts or on vacant or disturbed lands, brownfields. And then they say significant tree cutting is problematic because of the important water management and cooling and climate benefits trees provide. They went on to further state that roof-mounted solar energy system, this is specific to farmlands, roof-mounted is preferable, followed by the use of non-productive land, and then followed further by dual-use solar energy systems like agrivoltaics to preserve protected farmland underneath it and continue crop production beneath the ground-mounted system. I want to make a note here that Mass DOR has, Green Communities has reviewed these bylaws, and pending a small change that we're going to talk about a little bit in a moment, a quick word. It has been, it's been noted to be in compliance with Criterion 1 of the Green Communities Act. Okay, so why do we need a bylaw for our town? We do not currently allow for ground-mounted solar energy systems here in town. Per our use regulations, Section 4000
It states that no structure shall be erected or used or land used except as set forth in Section 4003, the use regulation schedule, or in Section 4100, accessory buildings and uses, unless exempted by Section 4100 or by statute. Where a use is not specifically mentioned in Section 4003, that use shall be prohibited. So there's no mention of solar energy systems within our bylaw, and therefore it's currently a prohibited use. So what do the statutes say? MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6, 9th paragraph states that no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. And what does all that mean combined? When the bylaw says no and the state law says maybe, each permit has to be given a discretionary review by the permitting authorities. So that's the building permits, planning board, site plan approval processes, zoning board of appeals. So Boxborough's bylaw currently prohibits solar, and it does not provide any kind of clear regulations around ground-mounted solar. Therefore, there's no by right option for permitting. So without a solar bylaw, we get a lot of uncertainty. So that means unpredictable, inconsistent permitting, project hesitancy, and we certainly want to support solar energy in our community. Disputes between neighbors, health, safety, and public welfare issues, and very expensive litigation. So with the solar bylaw, we get very predictable and consistent permitting with defined rules. We get less dispute, less litigation. We get by right permits for solar energy systems of 2250 square feet. We get by right permits for commercial scale solar energy systems of up to 40,000 square feet. We pass the Green Communities Criterion 1 for becoming a green community, which is great. We're encouraging, this bylaw is encouraging brownfield development as well as canopies for over parking lots. We're encouraging solar energy systems for new construction. There's protection for abutters. We protect forested lands, prime farmland, wetlands, aquifers, and habitats. And then, of course, protect the public health, safety, welfare, and quality of life. So through this process, the planning board, this has been a very long process for the planning board and a number of others. There was a lot of resources consulted, starting with the Boxborough Sustainability Committee, the Agricultural Commission, Mass DOER is mentioned, the MAPC, New England Clean Energy, Revision Energy, Boxborough's consulting engineer, Places Associate, and then over 12, probably closer to 15 by now, bylaws were consulted throughout this process, many of which were our neighboring rural communities. Okay, so we, the planning board spent over 2 years developing, drafting this and modifying the solar bylaw. We brought it before the community last year for town meeting, and it was voted down. We definitely heard everyone, and you made it very clear that we should try harder to make this be more in harmony with green energy and the environmental issues and public welfare. So with this, the planning board spent the last year creating and participating in a sustainability subcommittee, solar subcommittee. It was solely devoted to solar. So we worked very closely with them through this process. We were able to modify the bylaws. We separated them into 2 different bylaws, and we worked back and forth to get them to where they are today. So benefits of passing these 2 bylaws. Adding these solar energy systems to the bylaw gets them from being prohibited, first and foremost, and from further being misinterpreted. It allows them to be cited throughout town appropriately. Provides very clear guidance to developers and property owners, abutters, so there's less misinterpretation or disputes. These are they're consistent with the 2030 master plan. They preserve preservation for the heritage of the town, scenic or historic or agricultural. Also protects our protected lands, wetlands, aquifers, and such. It promotes the use of solar on brownfields, as mentioned. It promotes the reduction of town's overall carbon footprint. It provides ways to cut down on our personal energy consumption costs. It aligns with the Sustainability Committee's policies on climate change. Provides solar energy systems on new construction projects by encouraging solar to be added to new structures and parking areas. So quickly, what kind of solar energy systems can we install in various areas of the town? Roof or building mounted per these bylaws can have no limitations. So you can install as much roof mounted solar energy systems on any zoning district in town. Small scale ground mounted, that's 2250 square feet, is allowed in all zoning districts with the exception of town center. Medium scale ground mounted, that's 2250 to 40,000 square feet, is allowed in the business, the B1, office park, industrial, commercial districts by right, with a special permit requirement for residential 1. Large scale ground mounted, that's over 40,000, would be allowed by special permit in the business 1, office park, and industrial commercial districts. Okay, so we've had questions about what we can do on agricultural lands. Per MGL 40A, that protects the rights of farmers to be free of unreasonable regulation and special permits for building and structures used for the primary purpose of agriculture. So under the proposed bylaws, farmers are allowed by right siting of unlimited roof-mounted solar energy systems, as well as 2250 square feet of ground-mounted solar energy systems for any purpose. And if the farm is more than 2 acres in size and produces more than $2,000 per year, then the farm can put as much solar energy systems as needed to power and to cool the farm. What is the buyback what is the interconnection for residences and farms? This was another question that came up. So LELD will accept up to 8 kilowatts of net metering buyback. And the maximum allowable residential interconnection is 15. So what are the costs and savings revenue to this? There's no cost to the town. There's possibly additional tax revenue that could be had from any commercial scale installations that might come. For the users, per the MAPC, soft costs associated with solar energy system planning can be greatly reduced through any streamlined processes or standardized permitting processes. So that's what we're hoping to put in place. And then we're preserving real estate property for homeowners along with this. Okay, so bylaw or no bylaw. With the bylaw, we get very predictable permitting. We get by right unlimited roof mounted in all districts. We get by right 15 kilowatt ground mounted in residential districts. By right 250 ground mounted in commercial districts. Green Community 1, Criterion 1, we get friendly neighbors, we get environmental protections, quality of life protections, and we protect the public welfare. Now, if we don't have a solar bylaw in place, we don't have any predictability to our permitting processes. There's no by right ground mounted solar. We're not qualifying for Green Community Criterion 1. There's no environmental protections, no quality of life protections, and it's, again, we're opening ourselves up to more very expensive litigation. So with this, I'd like to encourage you to vote yes. Adding these bylaws to the use regulation table keeps them from being prohibited in town and provides clarity to homeowners and commercial installers. Adopting these will ensure that local regulations are clearly outlined and disputes are minimized. We're promoting sustainability and the use of renewable energy sources. They're consistent with the 2030 master plan and the sustainability policy for the town. We're preserving the town's heritage, scenic, historic, agricultural, cleaning the water, all this good stuff, right? And that's it. Thank you so much.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends.
Sustainability Committee.
Is this, sorry, just point of clarification, is this for both separate bylaws?
No, we're doing Article 33.
Understood. Article 33, the Sustainability Committee recommends. The majority of the Sustainability Committee supports the proposed bylaw for providing clear, reasonable regulation of small-scale, ground-mounted solar systems throughout our community, and for allowing roof-mounted solar systems of any size without restriction. This will allow residents, farmers, and businesses in Boxborough to pursue a clean energy transition and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. The minority of the Sustainability Committee does not support the proposed bylaw for imposing restrictions on small-scale, ground-mounted solar systems that unreasonably regulate that use as compared to how our current zoning bylaws address other comparable uses. The need to address climate change and accelerate the adoption of clean energy is now, and we cannot afford to hinder that effort by putting roadblocks in the way.
Agricultural Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I'd like to apologize. The Agricultural Commission did not get their recommendation printed in the warrant. We had a meeting scheduled on time. Myself messed up the Zoom link that got posted with the meeting schedule, and so we couldn't have our meeting, so we didn't get it in. We're meeting in person now. By the time we did meet, the warrant was printed, or at least it was available. The Agricultural Commission does not recommend. We were very impressed with the minority recommendation from the Sustainability Committee, which was just read, so I won't repeat it. We're very not impressed with the fact that if a resident wants to put them in their side yard, it requires a special permit. You can put a pool in your side yard, a tennis court, volleyball courts. You can do all kinds of things which your neighbors might not want. But it's your property. Unless you're in one of these neighborhoods that has a homeowners association and doesn't let you do that, it's your property. So the AgCom thinks that this can be much better, and we also thought that the presentation would be one at a time, and that it would be just clearly the small scale, and then we deal. I know that's the only motion on the floor, but I wish we only had heard your recommendation on the small scale in this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, slight technical issue, so I'm going to interrupt. We passed a motion, you passed a motion the first night ending saying we could take up no new items after 10 p.m. If that still stays in effect, we will go through this as long as it takes, and then we will adjourn until Wednesday for Article 34, 35, and 6. If someone wishes to make a motion to remove that 10 o'clock restriction, I will consider that motion in order, but I just want to tell people that.
I make a motion to remove that restriction.
Okay, it's been moved and second to remove the 10 p.m. restriction. All in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you. That clears. We have removed the 10 o'clock restriction. I apologize for interrupting, but I didn't want to not enable you to do 34. Okay.
Thank you. May I respond to that, Mr.
Yes.
Moderator, please? So I did want to point out that we did hear concern about the small scale. It was very clearly the planning board's directive to not make this overly difficult for a residential use landowner to get something like this, if there's a hardship, or if there's some reason that the solar install, yes, rear yard is recommended, but if there is a reason or a hardship that someone cannot put solar in their rear yard and they need to rather install it in the side yard or even the front yard, there is a very minor site plan approval process that the planning board has created to make that a very simplified approval process to be able to go ahead and address such an issue. Did you want to add anything?
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. Rebecca, I need to get smarter. One I think I already know the answer to, and the other one I absolutely don't. Can you explain on the tables what those initials, what those zonings, the initials represent for zoning in the town? The AR, the R1?
AR is ag residential. AR1 is, the R1 is residential 1. What else? So in industrial commercial, I see.
Okay, so it goes R1, AR, R1, B.
Business.
B1.
Business 1.
OP.
Office parks.
TC.
Town center.
I see.
Industrial commercial.
Okay, and then the one I need help with is footnote 20.
Footnote 20. Oh, do you want to speak to that one? Do you?
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know where it is. Can you read it?
It deals with avoiding project segmentation.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can explain that. So, if you were to own multiple parcels of land, and a lot of us in town do, I know I do, the idea is that you couldn't either subdivide the land to make multiple parcels to have each parcel of land have its own array on it, right? So you can, sometimes land on your deed, the assessor's map might show it as one big chunk of land called a lot, and it could be a buildable lot that you own, probably is. But your deed might show it as 15 different parcels. And so what we were trying to do is prevent 15 different 15-kilowatt arrays on the same lot of land. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is we didn't want thwarting the special permit requirement for large-scale arrays. So those were the reasons behind it.
And then one more question. On Town Center, what was the rationale for not allowing small-scale ground?
Do you want to take it? So, well, for me, I'm only speaking for myself. I can't actually recall the rationale for it, but the idea, I think, is that we're trying to have a kind of town center that will look a little more like West Acton someday, when they also restrict where their solar goes, but they do it through the historic district bylaw, the 40C bylaw. They don't do it through zoning, but we're doing it through zoning to try and keep an area where we can develop it into something that looks, fairly attractive. And I know that's a contentious argument for a lot of people, because there are people who actually think solar panels are attractive. But that's the idea behind it.
So just a question. We do actually have historic districts in Boxborough?
We do not, and we're doing it through zoning. Do you understand?
Actually, we do. The property at the top of Middle Road is designated as a historic district.
I don't think it's a 40C historic district with a design review board. We don't have a historic district commission, I believe. If I'm wrong, if I'm mistaken, please, correct me.
No, there are more than one kind of historic district, and both speakers are correct. We do have a historic district, but it is not one that restricts development.
It's not a 40C district. We maybe could make it that.
Right. So maybe to alleviate some of the concern, if you're looking to preserve a certain vista, you may want to consider putting another footnote in here that says the historic districts,
Well, you know what? There's always next year. There's always next year.
It's an interesting point, actually, that did come up for discussion throughout the entire hearing process. We did have some wording in there, so I think there is some tooth in that we could probably consider adding in at some point. Thank you.
Commissioner, Flag Hill Road. 3 questions. The first is, at the beginning of your presentation, you made a comment that there was something changed that wasn't in the motion. I didn't see you call that out.
That's Article 34.
30, okay, sorry.
Not this article.
Okay, I didn't know, that's why I'm asking.
Thank you. Yep.
You mentioned it twice, brownfield. What is a brownfield?
Previously developed sites. So a brownfield could be a capped dump, for instance. You know, it might be a really perfect place for solar installation.
Okay, and third, you talked about Littleton Electric. You talked to them and the buyback. Foxborough also has a Hudson. What did you talk to them?
Can you say that again, Greg?
Part of Boxborough gets power from Hudson, not from Littleton Electric. You know, Old Harvard Road, that southern part. So I'm just wondering if you've talked to them, or if maybe you should. I don't know if you need to, but.
Yeah, well, we did not. I think Hudson, I think I'm one of the houses that's on the border of Hudson Light and Power, and I did not speak to them. I don't know what their limitations are. I think it would probably be only a handful of houses.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, as you know, it's the southern part of Old Harvard Road, but it just caught my attention that you talked to one but not the other provider.
Well, because one's about 99% of the town, I think.
At least.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we were trying to give kind of an example of that to people that were interested, but yes, we didn't look into that.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I want to commend the planning board for their efforts on this. I know how hard you worked on this. I think this is a fantastic article, and we should support it. I understand the concern about needing to go to a special permit for something on the side yard, but that just makes for happier neighbors. When we didn't have, and this also allows us to get a step closer to becoming a green community, which is very important for us to be able to get grant money. So this is all moving the town in the right direction. We didn't have this in place when the solar panels went in behind what is now Vibalogics in Aranta Bio. They clear-cut more than 25 acres to put the solar panels in, plus a roadway where they went through an old-growth forest that we couldn't preserve. Because we didn't have a zoning bylaw in place, we didn't have any control. This is an amazing article, tremendous amount of work. I know you worked with multiple communities, and I would strongly urge all of us to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. I do want to correct 2 facts. One was, as the AgCom has pointed out to me multiple times, it took a few times getting beaten over the head about it, but I figured it out at last, is that old growth forests, by certain definitions, do not exist in Boxborough. So I just wanted to give Owen a nod for doing that. Thank you, and letting me know. The other part was that John said it might be an imposition to get a special permit, but to put it in the side yard or the front yard, but it is not a special permit. It's called an administrative permit. It's a site plan review, and it's not a special permit. It's not a discretionary review of your property. We wouldn't say no if you can't put it in the back or it's too impractical, then you would get to put it in. We might want you to, if you have some options, we talk about where you would locate it. Can you put it in a way that won't annoy your neighbors? And your neighbors would have an ability to say to you, if you put it there, it's going to affect me. If you're pole mounting it, I'm going to get a shadow from it on my land or something like that. So that was the whole idea behind it.
Francie Nolde. I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee, and I'm speaking as an individual. I first want to thank the townspeople for voting Tuesday night for the Sargent Road, because the issues are really the same down deep of providing a sustainable environment for our town and our community. So we have prevented houses from being built, and they are the true, the buildings are the largest conveyor of emissions, greenhouse emissions that we see. And solar is a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by converting to renewable energy. And last year, I could not vote for the solar bylaw. I found it restrictive and not encouraging of solar, which is what we want to do. And I really want to thank both Rebecca and Mark and the planning board for working so hard with us, insisting that we keep moving and working at it, and we came to many, many compromises, myself included. It's not perfect, but it is something worth supporting now. There are two reasons that I particularly like. One is that neighbors, if they do not agree on how things should look with solar, they have a way through the bylaw to avoid contention. And it will help us solve those problems. Furthermore, we do have a piece of legislation that's in the Energy Committee at the state level, a bill that was put forward by Jamie Eldridge, our state senator, and Dan Cena, state representative, for Boxborough specifically to become a green community. We cannot be a green community because we're part of the MLL system and MLP system, which is municipal light companies. And this bill, if it comes out of that committee and is voted on, it's very likely that we can become a green community. But along with that, we need to have a bylaw that allows the large systems in town, which this solar bylaw will do. So it's a pathway, and John was saying the exact same things I am, more eloquently, but I certainly think this is very important to support.
Thank you, Francie.
Chris DeLeese, 394 Sergeant Road. I'm also on the Sustainability Committee and was part of the subcommittee that focused with these fine folks at the Planning Board on this entire process. And I want to thank you because it was a very difficult, long process, but a lot was done. I believe that it's necessary to say that it's the large and medium systems portion of this, Article 34, if I'm not mistaken, that's required for green communities to pass, not Article 33 for the small systems. I don't know if anyone here can confirm that.
I can confirm that. It is the large scale that's going to allow you to be the green community once we modify it on the floor.
Okay, thank you. The small scale system as written is far, far more comprehensive and better than it was a year ago. And what I just want to get out here is that I know Mark has said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, or the good enough. But this process still takes a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of your rights off the table by reducing your ability to control the siting of a ground mount system. We are a heavily wooded town, and if you look at the maps, you will find that probably 3/4 of the houses in town, most of which are in agricultural residential zoning, cannot have a solar system in their backyard because it faces north, or because it faces west, or because it's surrounded by trees, or because it's shaded by the house. Having a site plan review process is not quite the same as of right, where you know you absolutely can put the darn thing on your property. And I think the plan as currently written in this article does not adequately give satisfaction that to the typical homeowner that they can put that system in. I just want to make that point. I'll let other people speak to this. And thank you very much. The process was a good one. Thank you.
Can I make a correction?
Yes, Mr. Barbadero.
Chris, first, thank you so much for the hard work. It was painful for all of us, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. But I do want to just stress that a site plan review is an administrative permit, and it cannot be turned down. So will get to put if you, particularly if you may have a lot, and I'm not saying you do, where it's going to be very difficult because of the trees and topography. You'll be able to put them in the front if you need to, because a site plan review is an administrative permit. There's no discretion. The rules will allow for it, therefore you get to do it.
And this one's minor.
And it's a minor site plan, so not a lot of restriction to, not a lot of regulation to it.
Why don't you just remove it then?
Because it allows your neighbors to talk to you. And you might be one who's very friendly with your neighbors, but others may never see their neighbors or might be feuding with their neighbors. And the point is we can get a little reconciliation between people who would be suffering. So that was the reason why.
Thank you.
I have a question. The part of town that is being developed by Toll Brothers.
Could you give us your name and address,
I'm
please?
sorry. So focus on my question. Carol Dion, 564 Burroughs Road. So the part of town, the land that's being developed by Toll Brothers, bordered by Mass Ave and Stowe Road, behind Sheriff Meadows condos, I believe is zoned town center, or at least a good part of it that's being developed. Tell me how these bylaws controls solar panel on that land, because a lot of it is still undeveloped and will be developed.
Well, I wanted to just say that specific to that property, because it did come up a number of times, people were concerned about that, but that particular project has a deed restriction, like a condo association restriction on such ground-mounted insulation, so they can't do it.
It's filed with the state? You mean a deed restriction with the?
No, it's like a condo, each of the homeowners there has.
It's a condo association
yes,
control.
Yeah.
They could vote to do whatever they want. That's not a guarantee.
I think it's written into their
Yeah, but that
initial
could be
documents,
changed. If
my
it's not
understanding.
deed restriction filed with the state, it could get changed in the future.
I think the development put this into place before the homeowners are even it's
Well-
probably it's part of our decision. It's in our decision. Like the document.
So would
I
they
don't have it here.
would they be controlled by the small, or would they be controlled by the large? And not all of that land is Toll Brothers land, right? It's still other parcels that are undeveloped and not permitted or I think actually there's some plans filed on file, so they've got grandfathered probably already.
Some of those lots have changed out of town center district, and they're
Okay.
going to be developed by a local developer. And some of that land is still
So they're
privately owned and is not owned by Toll Brothers.
Yeah,
as you get
it's still
close to
owned by the
111.
original owners, right? So it's not town center, what are they? The R1, or, do you know? The lots that you said they got changed zoning.
They're ag-res now. They're off of Priest Lane. And then there is a portion up front, down by 111. I think that's still town center
So
district.
ag-res allows them to do a large solar panel installation?
No, those are going to be two house lots, and they're going to be two houses on them. And
Okay.
there's going to be what is allowed in the ag-res, which is 15 kilowatts, which is all that Littleton Electric will allow you to have.
So it's small.
Yeah.
So it's not another big solar park. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Becky Neville, Middle Road, I move the question.
It's been moved and second that we vote now on Article 33. All in favor of voting now, raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed to voting now, raise your cards. That clearly carries by a 2/3 vote. So we are now voting on Article 33. Article 33 is a zoning bylaw. Zoning bylaws also require a 2/3 vote. All in favor of Article 33, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That carries by a 2/3 vote. Article 34. Could everyone please turn to page 81 of their warrant? Because the motion under Article 34 has a small correction, which is on the motion up there. So basically, if you go to line 81, page 81, section 7803.8, it now reads of about 250 kDC or greater. The amendment changes is to read of greater than 250 kC, period. And that's what, and that's what, so that's the motion he's going to make. That's the correction we were talking about. So instead of about 250 or greater, it's of greater than. So there's the motion.
Okay. I move the town vote to amend the Boxborough.
Mike,
I'm sorry.
you can read it here.
Here. Thanks. I gotta look this way because I can't remember it. Okay. I move the town vote to amend Boxborough zoning bylaw section 4003, business industrial use table, Article 4, use regulations, Article 5, dimensional requirements and footnotes, and adding section 7800, solar energy systems, medium and large scale ground mounted, and by adding the following language in bold italics and deleting the language indicated by strike-throughs, and further, that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the zoning bylaw be permitted in order to be in compliance with the numbering format of the zoning bylaw printed in the warrant, except that section 7803.8 on page 81 of the warrant, A, the word about on line 4 shall be eliminated and replaced by the words greater than. The word or on line 4 shall be eliminated. The word greater on line 5 should be eliminated.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, Ms.
explain it?
Werner.
Okay. So what we had prior to this very minor amendment is that we had two sets of sizes of kilowatts in a range, and both of them contained 250 kilowatts. So since one said 250 kilowatts and less, and the other one said 250 kilowatts and more, 250 kilowatts was in both and was subject to both rules, and the rules conflict. So that would mean that you couldn't build exactly 250 kilowatts. Why anyone would care? Well, DOER cared, and they cared for a very specific reason. They need to know that someone can put up to 250 kilowatts by right in Boxborough on the ground. So by separating them and leaving the 250 kilowatt array in the by right size allowed them to be built by right and clarified the bylaw. We got this response from DOER after the warrant was printed, and Kelly Brown, who is a Boxborough resident, I don't know if she's here tonight, but she sent out, I proposed the language, and she commented on it and said this language will meet the Green Communities Act. So that will get us criterion 1 satisfied for the Green Communities Act. So there's several things you have to do to join a green community and to be eligible for the grants. And we've done one of them. Francie helped make us get the stretch energy code a couple years back. That was criterion 2 or 3. But one of them is that we have a zoning bylaw that has a green component. So this solar bylaw, and as one of the members mentioned on the Sustainability Committee, it is this one that is needed to pass in order to meet criterion 1 and become a green community. So that's why we did it.
Okay, recommendation on this article by the planning board?
The planning board unanimously recommends.
Finance committee?
Half of the finance committee supports this warrant article.
Sustainability committee?
The Sustainability Committee unanimously supports the proposed bylaw for recognizing the holistic nature of sustainability, where we as a community must balance things like the broader transition to clean energy with the protection of our important natural resources, as well as the preservation of our rural character. The bylaw isn't perfect, but it represents a significant effort to strike that balance as we go forward and confront the ways in which our community must adapt to a changing future.
Agricultural Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Agricultural Commission does not recommend this. As was mentioned in the presentation, Chapter 48, Section 3 speaks to solar, and it has since 1985, and says that no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. We do not believe that that this bylaw addresses those items, and furthermore, being in 40A Section 3, just as there are a number of things there, child care centers. You can put a child care center in any zoning district, and we, the Agricultural Commission, believes that these should be considered in any zoning district, and things such as topography, the build-out already in the neighborhood, should be used. The town of Lexington recently redid theirs last fall, and they reduced their solar regulations to 2.5 pages, and they recognize that it's in 40A Section 3. Thank you.
Discussion from the floor.
Bob Stemple, 53 Kendall Road. I just have a question. I'm not sure where it falls into, so I want to ask the question. If a business was to put the solar panels in their parking garage, on their parking lot, as we've seen them been doing in Boxborough and in Acton, does that fall into the small scale or into the large scale?
Can I tell him? I'm excited to tell him. I'm excited to tell you the answer. So the answer is it falls into roof canopy, parking canopy. It's its own thing. It's unlimited. You can do it just about anywhere as long as it's over a parking area.
So it doesn't fall into 33 or 34?
It doesn't, but I think it is limited in the ag-res. But in a commercial environment, a commercial district, you can cover your whole parking lot with it by right. Well over 250 kilowatts if you got a big parking lot.
John Nealon, Picnic Street. So I do want to recognize the planning board has done a huge amount of work. It was not quite there last year. I still feel we're not quite there. The restrictions, I've asked the planning board before, is if you put a bylaw together, can you put it through an acid test? Meaning you write it and then you pretend you're a customer and say, can I do this? You read through where it can't be done. There's no GIS system that I know of that can even put all the restricted areas that this could not happen in. The presentation you presented, your first 4 slides, was about how horrible it is and where it shouldn't have been and where we shouldn't have cut trees and so on and so forth. So it seems to be that the motivation is more to, we're not letting this happen again, than it is to encourage it. Setbacks. What's the setback on a building off the back lot in a commercial? Is it 50 feet?
Why don't we just say, for argument's sake, it's 50 feet?
But
I don't remember.
Yeah, but solar has to be 100 feet. You know, so you take 100 feet from every setback. Clearing of land. You can't clear more than an acre. I don't even think you can put a large-scale array in less than an acre. You know, with your roads and path in and out. You know, from the AgCom side, I'll take Mr. Morris's property. He owns a very long strip along 495. I firmly believe that he could put an array that's a couple of panels wide, half a mile down 495 and be a large array, and he can't do it. It doesn't allow it. And, you know, for those, and I don't want to drag this out, but there's multiple reasons throughout that I would love to keep going around and try and get it a little better ironed out, because it's a heavy lift to put a bylaw in place and then get the 2/3 vote to make amendments every year to try and polish it. The one we just passed, I don't think people realize how restrictive it is, but we're going to find out. So I guess I would urge that we try to work on this some more. Thank you.
So just to follow up on his question, so you keep saying by right, so there's certain things that happen by right, but there's other things that could happen with the site by going through the planning board and going through a review, correct? So if somebody needed to clear more than an acre, they just have to come and ask the town, and the town. So some of these things, guidelines, are not to prevent things, but to allow the town to have a voice in controlling them, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to bring that up to people's attention, that there's the by right part, where you don't have to go get permission from the town. And then there's these rules and regulations to help the town control developments, so we don't get the clear cutting that we got.
Can I just make a quick clarification?
Yeah,
about
that's what I'm asking for.
Okay. So I think there is an understanding with some people that by right means you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But that's not what by right means with respect to zoning. What that really means is you put a set of rules together,
Yeah.
and you can do what you want to do on your land if you meet all the rules that
right,
surround
okay.
it. So no one thinks twice about by right construction of houses. You have to meet the setbacks. You have to have a lot of a certain size. You have to have a certain amount of frontage
Yeah.
and other things. So, that's called by right.
Okay.
And then there is a sort of gray area in between, and we'll call that site plan review, and that's when you gotta come and discuss your thing.
Right,
But by right means you don't have to discuss it with us. You just go to the building inspector and prove to him that you've got all the things and you're compliant with it.
Right.
So that's what by right is.
Okay.
So what we tried to do was make by right things that we thought were the least detrimental to other people. And then we thought that if it was going to impact your neighbors should be notified. Because I do this
It's
kind of work
permitting,
for a
right,
living.
yeah, right,
And people like to know when something dramatic is happening to the property next door.
Right, yeah.
It can impact their quality of life.
Right, right. So, back to the previous questioners. If a business wanted to come in and they wanted to do something a little, like you said, they only limited to clear an acre. If they want to clear an acre or 2 acres, is there an avenue for them? Is it outright they can't do it, or can they come to the town and discuss it with the town? What does the zoning?
It's going to trigger a review.
It triggers a review.
It triggers a review,
Yeah, so it doesn't outright prevent it, it just
Yeah.
starts another process
It
that has
starts
to
a
be followed.
process,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I wanted to clear for people.
Thank you.
Excuse me, could we have your name for the town clerk?
Carol Dion, 564 Burrows Road.
Thank you.
Mark White, Sarah's Way, and I'm also a member of the planning board, and I want to thank my fellow planning board members who I know worked really hard on this. And it's been said, but I watched them do it, and they spent a lot of time. And this is a 2-year effort, because, they came in last year, and it got voted down, and then they responded to that. And personally, I'm not a big fan of regulation, and here I am on a regulatory board. And so that was part of the give and take, and also the give and take that they had with the other boards, the Sustainability Committee in particular. I mean, that was a really good example of 2 boards working together to hammer it out. I think that's great. I mean, they hammered it out. Francie comes in, she says, we're good, and unfortunately the AgCom isn't along for the ride on this, but I think overall it's a well-crafted regulatory document. And one of the things Owen mentioned before was, this is more restrictive than other things that we have in our yards. Well, those other things never existed before. Now we've got solar panels, and we have to figure out how to deal with them. And I don't think they're pretty. If someone put one right in your view shed, were potentially reflecting light in your windows, I don't think you'd like it. And this gives us an opportunity to speak to it as a butters. And that's important to me. I don't want my next door neighbor to put just any old thing that I have to look at for the rest, and that basically may even reduce the value of my property. And that's what the planning board does, is we make sure that you're not stepping on your neighbor's toes. That makes for good neighbors. And it's not perfect, no. I mean, no bylaw we will ever write is gonna be perfect. Perfect is the enemy of the good. And I think this is a lot better than the alternative. The alternative, I mean, you know, the other end of this is the Sustainability Committee says that, you know, it is kind of ghastly when you see 30 acres knocked down of trees of prime woodland, and it wasn't old growth forest, but that's really pretty land. I've walked that land, it's beautiful. And it was a shame to see that just cut down. And the road that they put in was wider than this room, just to access it. And I don't even know if that figured in the calculations of how much land got cleared in order to put that up. And for what? You know, so we make 30-something thousand bucks a year, and they're making a whole bunch of money, and who knows how much those solar panels actually cost in fuel to manufacture and mine and all that. So I think this is better than the alternative, which is no bylaw at all. So I urge you to vote for it.
Thank you, Mark.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. Changes in the air, I think, because this is the second time tonight I'm going to agree with Mark. I also know, as a liaison to the Sustainability Committee, and I apologize, I've missed a lot of your meetings, but I know how much back and forth and give and take there was. There was a tremendous amount of work. And both sides, the planning board and sustainability, came to compromise. And that's exactly what we need to do in this community. This is a perfect example of how it works. I do have one question, because this is the article that we need in order to get closer to being a green community. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I strongly urge you to support this. Boxborough needs to get to become a green community. The select board endorsed becoming more energy efficient and getting to just getting rid of fossil fuels. I think we need, this is fantastic. I urge you all to vote for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Dick Wagman, 86 Leonard Road. Listening to all this debate and stuff, I'm kind of reminded of our Social Security, which is a program that by and large most people today mostly tend to support. It didn't all start out that way. They had an original Social Security law that had all kinds of holes in it and stuff like that. As a result, people kept coming back to Congress and they kept patching it and adding it and adding it, and finally over time they got something sensible. Solar is a new thing for all of us, and it seems reasonable to me that our first crack at a solar bylaw might very well not be perfect. This one feels to me like a good start. Let's do this. I'm going to support this article. Let's do this. Let's see what actually happens in real life. It is possible that it may require some changes in the future. Then, in that case, you folks can come back to us and ask for some amendments to it. That would not be weird. Trying to get it perfect on the first time, in my opinion, is a mistake. The gentleman who said that the perfect is the enemy of the good had it right. Let's get a good bylaw and perfect it later as we learn more about it.
Thank you.
Michael Toops, 118 Pine Hill Road. Sort of similar sentiments to the previous speaker, though I do have some serious concerns that were brought up by some of the, Owen Neville, some of the other earlier speakers. In that 7804 Section 8, I guess we're only allowing 1 acre of land clearing for any solar development. Is that a correct reading of that section?
You want to read it? You got glasses? Yeah, that is exactly right.
So you could basically could only clear 1 acre of land that has, is this trees, shrubs? What's the definition of clearing?
Deforesting, like,
Okay.
yeah, removing, like all the trees on the property.
Is there a minimum tree size? Would scrub qualify as deforestation or not?
I don't,
So that's a great question, and when you draft a bylaw like this, it isn't going to be perfect. But if you know, history is a teacher with our building department. I think if it's a heavily forested, densely packed area, he would have concerns, and if it was scrubland, he probably would not have
no,
concerns.
I wouldn't interpret it the same way.
Okay. And then I guess it's saying that if you had cleared the land for some reason in the prior 5 years, you can't put any solar on that. So if it was part of a office park development and then they decided to add additional solar, that wouldn't be allowed if they had cleared the land for whatever reason?
So for a large-scale ground mount, that is true. It is not true for panels on buildings. Because
Correct.
the section is not in there, and it is not for canopy solar, because canopy solar is, this section is not applicable to it. So
Okay.
if you were to, what we were trying to avoid was the accidental clearing, right? I accidentally cleared 22 acres for another purpose, but then I changed my mind and put the solar up, right? So that's what we were trying to prevent with a 5-year moratorium. So if you want to clear for a building, you know, and you have cleared more than an acre, you get to the first 5 years, put an acre of ground mount solar there when you change your mind.
Okay.
I
And
love
then
the
in
air quotes.
Section B, prohibited locations, I guess the old growth forest is not applicable because I don't think there was any old growth forest in Boxborough since it was all clear cut in the 1800s.
So there is a Wikipedia definition for old growth forests, and then there is a AgCom definition, and they are different. One was called virgin old growth forests, right, which are completely gone, and then there was Wikipedia's definition, which said 70 or 80 years of growth could technically be old growth forest. I don't think that, since there really isn't much of it in Boxborough, I don't think it's relevant.
Well, do we have a definition in the bylaws for old growth forest?
No, it's a commonly understood definition, you know, in other sources.
All right, well, I think you just proved to me that there's no common definition.
Good point.
And then I guess the other one was farmland soils. Do we know how much of Boxborough actually qualifies under this farmland soil exemption?
So you can look at the open space and recreation plan and look at the map. I haven't charted how much land is in it, but it's a lot.
Okay. And then finally, under Section 10, there's the decommissioning. Do we know anything about the ability to reuse or recycle materials at this point in time?
Do you know? I don't know much about it.
There are ways to reuse and recycle, or recycle and decommission this. We tried to keep this as kind of open as possible to be able to, because we understand technology is changing really fast, and so we didn't want to limit it. We started out with a particular way of recycling, and through our back and forth with Sustainability Committee, we decided that we should probably just keep it a little bit more flexible, so as technology develops and gets better, we're not limiting the way things can get recycled, but there are currently systems in place to do that.
All right. And
Michael, I'm sorry, those types of regulations are usually things that you see at a board level. You don't usually see the building inspector asking you what dumpster the panels are going into, if you will. But that does happen on the bigger projects. So best practices, I think, is that the language that's in there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so best practices means that under a special permit or a site plan review, you can make sure that they're not just hauling them to the local landfill.
And just finally, it's a little surprised it's in Section 10, but there's the life cycle analysis under 10B. It seems like it belongs somewhere else. But ignoring that, it sounds like, is it expected that the planning board will be expecting for life cycle analysis from people attempting to build a large-scale developed, because it says that as deemed appropriate by the planning board, they may be required to do a life cycle analysis of the components to ensure there's a net environmental benefit.
Did you come to any of the planning board meetings, Michael? I wish you had.
All right, thank you.
I think we just built that in there if it was necessary. It's not something that is a requirement for every project, but the planning board did feel like we should be able to put it in there just in case it is something really sizable that needs a little additional assessment.
Well, I support this, but I think we may have to come back in the future and make some changes. I think we need something on the books that's better than nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rita Grossman, 291 Depot Road. I just want to thank all the hard work that's gone into this. I actually agree with Mark that trying to get it perfect will prevent us from not getting something done. I have a question on page 84, section 8, part B, prohibited locations. I'm sure you're aware that Biomap 3 is about to be released, and I want to make sure that I guess this might be a legal question. If you cite Biomap 2 and it's being updated to Biomap 3, that would be inclusive, correct?
It's not going to be inclusive. If it says Biomap 2, it's Biomap 2.
Okay, so Biomap 3 is imminent, like weeks. So
But let me ask you this, Rita, is Biomap 2 bad?
no, Biomap 2 is not bad, but I think there may be some changes with Biomap 3 to deal with resiliency and the value of upland. So Biomap 2 is great, and Biomap 3 might be improved and adjusted. And so I think that should, I don't know how to address that.
When maps change, you have to adjust it. I'm not a fan, and it might not even be legal but we can ask Attorney Eichmann. But
I don't think we can change it because it hasn't been released yet.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I'm not sure that you can put in your bylaw the most recent type of map.
Oh.
I think it could also be a little dangerous because people who voted here wouldn't know what that is.
Right, right.
But it is something that could be changed at a later date.
Later date, okay. And then my second part of the same question is, we have commercially zoned land in Biomap 2. And if it's prohibited in Biomap 2, but there's already disturbed surfaces like parking lots, and it's in the Biomap area, you would be able to put a solar panel over already disturbed surfaces, yes?
So it depends on the specifics of the case. I would say that if it's a brownfield site, our goal is to encourage brownfield site development.
Okay.
To clarify it down the road, see, without trying to make the bylaw, the solar bylaw, be bigger than the zoning bylaw, we can't fit every little thing in. Like, what about this? What about that? What about this? Suddenly the bylaw gets bigger than the solar bylaw gets bigger than the zoning bylaw. And it
Right.
swallows it up.
Well, I guess I was just asking for clarification because I'm not on the planning board and I'm not a planner.
We had a preamble that said, we encourage brownfield sites in the
Okay.
bylaw, and so we are encouraging it. But I can't think about it and give you a straight answer.
I think this is one of those perfect items that through that site plan review process, we have it clearly designated here that would be something that would be very strongly appropriate, right? And so I think it's something that through that process
It could be addressed.
could be addressed, yeah, and it'd probably be looked at favorably, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
Susan Bach, 59 Burroughs Road. I move the question.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote now on Article 34. All in favor of voting now on Article 34, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your hands. That motion clearly carries. Okay, Article 34 is a zoning article. It takes a 2/3 vote. All in favor of Article 34, raise your hands. Thank you so very much. All opposed, raise your hands. That clearly carries by a required 2/3 vote. Okay, before we get to Article 35, we have one sort of hanging piece of business. Do I have a motion on Article 4? 6.
What? Pass over it? So I move to pass over Article 6.
It's been moved and second to pass over Article 6. Article 6 is on page 24 of the warrant. It's the first year cost of collective bargaining agreement. Discussion, Mr. Folks.
As of this time, the select board has not come to final terms with the unions for the first year of their contracts.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passing over.
Okay, seeing nobody in a microphone, all in favor of passing over Article 6, please raise your cards. Thank you so very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries unanimously. Okay, motion under Article 35.
I'm totes doing the motion. To see if the sense of the, or, here we go. I move that the town vote, if it is a sense of the meeting, to request that the select board explore the possibility of the town becoming a member of the Regional Vocational Technical High School and report back to the 2023 annual town meeting as to the likely districts we might join, the process for doing so, and the educational and financial impacts of doing so.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, a presentation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Campbell, and I'm presenting this on behalf of the Select Board. Just one quick thing is the sense of the meeting, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a non-binding vote, so there's no action that has to be taken. There's no appropriation for funds. And the reason why the Select Board is coming to you this instead of the school committee is because vocational technical school memberships are decided by the town, not by the region. All right, so the history. In 2016, the town voted to leave the Minuteman Regional, Minuteman Vocational School District as a member town. And there were a lot of good reasons for that. There was a lot of declining enrollment from Boxborough students. There were some increasing costs, including they were about to build a new building. But prior to that, prior to 2016, we had been a member of Minuteman, and that gave our students some advantages, and us some advantages. One was that students were either guaranteed or given priority to apply and then receive their placement. We paid a minimum price for all of our students to attend, and then any additional students, we paid for those as well. We also were able to coordinate our transportation down to one option. Since 2016, students have had a choice, and of the 3 local vocational technical schools, Assabet, we currently have 1 student attending, Minuteman 4, and 3 at Neshoba. So this year, 12 students from Boxborough applied to become, to any of these vocational schools for the 2022-2023 school year, and none were accepted. 1 student was accepted at Essex, but isn't going because the commute would have been way, way too long. So the costs of vocational technical education, the tuition is generally around $17,000 to $20,000 per student. Those rates are determined by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and there can be extra costs for individual education plans. Transportation, however, is $32,000 to $38,000 per school, not per student. So right now, we're paying transportation costs for 3 different schools. There are also potential capital assessments associated with having your children at these schools. So, the implications of not being a member town are that students can go to any of these schools in which they're accepted, and by law, we are required to pay for their tuition and their transportation. So, as of right now, we're paying transportation to 3 different schools. Also, very importantly, students have less of a chance of being accepted, and they could have really long transportation costs. If On the other hand, if we were a member town, as we were before, the students who wanted to go and got in had to go to that member school unless there was a program that they wanted to go to that was not offered there. We were able to provide cost-effective transportation and, most importantly, give them a better chance of getting in. This kind of education has a lot of benefits, not only to the students, but to us as a whole. For one thing, it's really important for students to have an educational choice. Not all students thrive at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School. I just graduated my second child from there last year, and I can tell you it is a difficult environment, and it is not for everyone. But if you go to an vocational technical school, you're not only getting the regular curriculum, but you're also learning a trade. You can be in a specialty such as mechanics or cosmetology. And when you graduate from there, you either have the skills to go get a job, or you are that much farther ahead if you're going to prepare for further training. And a lot of those kids also do go on to 2-year and 4-year colleges. And I do want to point out, too, that the children who are affected, especially those 12, none of them can vote. So it's our responsibility to make this decision on their behalf. So if we vote yes tonight, we haven't discussed this, but my thought was that we would form a committee that would determine all the available schools that might accept us as a member town. That could be none of them. It could be something not on the list of those 3. Most likely will not be Minuteman. And then those options will be presented for a vote at a future town meeting. If we don't vote yes tonight, the town will continue as we are with having our students not be able to go to these schools should they want to, most likely. We'll also have to pay for transportation costs for any school that they go to. And those kids who don't get a placement are going to go to AB, and that might not be the right school for them. So I urge you to vote yes. We really need to show our students, especially since they can't vote, that we care about their future by giving them opportunities to learn in their environment that's best for them. And I truly feel that we as a society are better when our students graduate with skills and learning that prepare them for their next step, whatever that may be. Thank you.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends unanimously.
Discussion from the floor. Who's ever up first?
I guess I'm up first. Dick Wagman, 86 Leonard Road. I kind of remember the town meeting where we voted to get out of Minuteman, and I remember at the time thinking that was a big blunder. I see now the results of having 12 students who tried to get into a Voc-Tech high school and couldn't. And as you just stated in your presentation, Acton-Boxborough is not the right school for everybody. The idea of having to force feed those students back into Acton-Boxborough feels kind of appalling. I was very dismayed when we dropped out of Minuteman, and I think we're paying the price for it now. I strongly support trying to get back into something. I don't have a problem with the fact that if we have to pick a district, that the student will have to go to that particular district school. I mean, if you're going to go to a regular high school, right now you go to Acton-Boxborough, whether you like it or not, and that's, I think, is okay. The same would be true if you forced us into Neshoba or one of the others. At least you aren't forced into a regular high school when that's not the appropriate thing for you. I think we blundered the last time we got out. We should try to undo the blunder. I support this article.
Michael Toops, 118 Pine Hill Road. I really enjoyed your presentation. I wish this would have been done in 2016. When we came up here in 2016, there were certain members of the select board that assured us that by leaving the district, we would have more choices for our students because they would be able to go to all 3 schools, all the schools listed there. At the time, we had some of us had investigated certain of the schools and asked them, well, what's about your enrollment? Do you have room for us? And the answer was an emphatic no. But The town, we debated a very, very short time. We had certain members of the selectmen who were very adamant that we would save money and even cut our transportation costs by leaving the district. Now, unfortunately, we're reaping what came of that. You're correct, AB isn't for everyone. My youngest went to Minuteman. She graduated and went to RPI. They have not only trades there, but they had an engineering and a robotics program, which was the right place for her. AB would not have been the right place for her. And so, unfortunately, I'm afraid at this point in time, the horse has left the barn. Chances of getting back into Minuteman are probably non-existent because when they built the new school, because of a variety of things that went in and the fact that we left the district and other things happening at the time, they sized that campus for a number of students which was less than the number of students they had previously. So I don't imagine they'd be looking favorably for us to return. Unfortunately, they were going to build the new school, so one of the arguments was that's going to cost us more. But we would have had a chance to be in on the ground floor. Unfortunately, we turned that offer down. So at this point, I'd urge you to vote yes for this, but I have no idea how we're going to solve this problem. We've made a problem, we've dug a hole, and I don't see a way to get a ladder to climb out of the hole. Thank you.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. Thank you, Jennifer, for the presentation. However, there are some salient points that I think to Mr. Toops's comments. And I do want to point out, his daughter was valedictorian of his graduating class, as was the young lady from Boxborough the year before. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name, and I apologize because she's a wonderful person. But to the point, this actually was a much longer protracted. In 2015, one particular member of the select board put forth an article to withdraw from the district. It was pointed out by myself and other concerned citizens that no analysis had been done. So very reluctantly, that particular person after the town meeting on 2015 voted down, very reluctantly and dragging his feet, finally agreed to formulate a vocational study committee, and it was populated by very, very smart people. Some of them are here tonight. And the findings of the study committee were very much like Mr. Toop said. The numbers are not our friends here. The numbers are tracking that more students in the next 20 years will be availing themselves of a vocational education. Yes, our numbers are low right now, but every educational study is telling us that that is going to change. So the committee's recommendation was split. They could not find an imperative to remove ourselves from the district, nor could they find an imperative to commit to another one of the vocational schools that were presented. And past practice here in this town, if you come up with an analysis that is right smack in the middle, you maintain the status quo. However, that particular select board member pushed through, using all his skills, the article to remove ourselves from the district. That select board member then shortly left town. And also that select board member was instrumental in getting the Minuteman School District to reduce the size of the building just for that particular imperative that we were not going to be going there. Thank you.
Steve Ballard, 220 Swanson Road. I want to say first off that I agree with this, and I'm going to support this, but just because of the language in there, and I hope that it's interpreted broadly, I would not if the summary and the rationale behind it were included. And so as a part of legislative history, I want to make some points here, because I see people don't understand what Mr. Amoroso did and what this town did is truly expand the opportunities. And if you look at the budget and you look at the current warrant, you look at last year's, and you find that we have budgeted last year for 11 students. And we have now, we're claiming we have 9. Back then we had 5 Minuteman students, okay? We have more. And we've had, and every year, including this year, and even next year, the projection is that we're going to have 8 students, 4 at Minuteman, 2 at Assabet, and I'm sorry, 1 at Assabet, but we're going to allocate for 2 and not have to spend it because they're going to allocate an extra 1, or 3. If you look at 2 different places, it says 3 at Neshoba, and the budget says 2, so I don't know. And then they also have some numbers wrong. I don't know if it's 112 or if it's 96. If you look at the budget, you'll see that's one of the many mistakes we're going to have to, when we get an accountant, we'll figure it out. But we have actually done exactly what was projected. And what people don't understand is, well, it's a problem with supply and demand. And that, there's a number of factors that I hope that will be considered by this committee that's formed. If you don't remember, there was a committee formed, and it was made up of a lot of people who have spoken already tonight, who are understandably, partisans in favor of Minuteman, because they had really good experiences there. I applaud the fact that we have 2 Boxborough students who were at the top there, and the Toops family. It's great. The thing is that what happened this last summer is that DESE changed their regulations with respect to admission to this type of school. And that was because Lawrence and New Bedford and some other places were saying, we're catching on to the fact that this whole industry of these regional schools have become, I don't want to say they've been exploited or they've been gamed by privileged families. And that's been true of Minuteman at the top of the heap, the most expensive school and the best school, 8-to-1 teacher-student ratio. But the thing is that if you look at the demographics right now at Minuteman, there are 655 students there, and there are a lot from Acton, more, and there is 1 student English language learner, because it's 0.31%. And they don't reflect the demographics of equity that we have wanted. And so in places like Lawrence and places like New Bedford, it's been very stark. They have large Hispanic populations. They have a large economically disadvantaged populations, yet those schools, like Minuteman, ended up being a place where a lot of white students, and now it's 76% white, Minuteman. It's not as diverse as our school district. It's not as diverse as the member towns.
Could you please wrap it up?
Yes, and so I hope that we will look. There was, Mr. Amoroso did a study, because the study that was done, the select board asked to be done, was very limited, and it seemed to be Minuteman biased, certainly. And he did it in a study, and I was there with the school committee when they talked about it.
Thank you very much.
He compared all 3 schools. So what we've done, the problem we have now is a supply and demand.
Thank you very much.
And new regulations that make it harder to get in.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks, Jennifer, for bringing this up. I think it's such an important subject. And it was heartbreaking to hear how 12 of our students didn't get into a VOTEC school. I'm sorry, I have some questions just for clarification. And I think I heard the answer, but you said Minuteman probably won't be one of the schools that we become a member of. Is that because they don't have room for us, or is it bad feelings, or what?
My understanding is they don't have room, and also that it is one of the more expensive options. Becky, I know, knows a lot about this, so if she wants to answer any of these questions.
Okay.
One of the more expensive options, because there's a capital fee associated with it also, along with the tuition and the transportation. But they also had an incredibly long wait list this year. Not even all the kids in their district got in. So I don't know that they would really actually want us back.
Okay. And that was my other question. So, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but the feeling is that if we are a member, we will have first dibs in getting into there versus being a floater and choosing.
Yeah, there are no guarantees, but you at least are given the priority. They take everyone from their member towns before they would look at anyone else. So our students weren't even considered.
Okay. Thank you. I think that this is a really good idea. I'm going to vote yes for it because I have a friend who is in Hudson, and when her son was first starting out, you know, they were going to go the VOTEC route, and it was kind of like a guarantee he'd get in, and then the numbers just started to change, which I think is good for the population as a whole. And we need this for our students, so vote yes. Thank you.
Heather Fleming, Stowe Road. I just have a brief comment. Other than echoing, I think this is wonderful and I very much support it. But the one thing I wanted to add, sort of a nuance or maybe it's semantic, that I would love to be able to do this for our community, not only to give the kids the opportunity to have choice in what school they go to, but to send the message that choice is fine and that you don't have to, choices are good. And there's not a less than or a better than or a worse than, but they have the choice, period. And that's the end. And I think that's really important.
Mark White, Sarah's Way. I'd like to move the question.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote now. That takes a 2/3 vote. All in favor of voting now, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion clearly carries by 2/3. We are now voting on Article 35. All in favor of Article 35, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed, please raise your cards. That motion carries unanimously.
I move to dissolve the May 2022 annual town meeting.
It's been moved and seconded that we dissolve this town meeting. All in favor, please raise your cards. I'm sorry, I should ask for debate, but I don't see anybody to mic, so all in favor, raise your cards. Thank you very much. All opposed? Again, thank you. That motion carries by a majority vote.
Thank you, John
Remember,
Fallon.
thanks for coming. Thanks for doing. Get to vote next Tuesday. Thanks for everything.